Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this planning meeting. I'm Councillor Susie Horton and I am the Chair of Planning Committee. Before we start, a little bit of housekeeping. If the fire alarm sounds, we're not expecting a practice, so please evacuate the room. There's no one in the public galleries. By the stairwells, don't use the lift, and assemble by Queen Victoria's statue in Guildhall Square. If you did sign in via the desk in at the Guildhall down, please sign out for the fire regulations. Regarding live web streaming, there's obviously limited seating here, but this meeting is also being webcast to allow the public to watch remotely if they wish, and I know some people do because they contacted me afterwards, so welcome everyone from wherever you are. But everyone here speaking via a microphone will be on camera, including those making deputations. Members of the press and public are permitted to record the meeting on the understanding that it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. And can everyone speaking use the microphones and also remember to switch them off afterwards. Okay, when it comes to voting, please can members keep their hands raised clearly until the number of votes has been stated. Okay, we'll do some introductions. So I'll start with members. So I'll start down here.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Judith Smythe, Councillor for St Jude Ward and Vice Chair of this committee.
Morning, Chair. Mary Vallely for Cosham and Wimmering.
Good morning, Chair. Chris Atwell. Apologies for slight lateness.
Councillor Roman Dent, Copner Ward.
Councillor Chris Dyke, Paulsgrove Ward.
Councillor Derek North, Cosham and Wimmering.
Good morning, Chair. Councillor Matthew Cordy, Member for Hilsey.
Councillor Hugh Mason.
How could I forget Councillor Mason? Sorry about that. Welcome,
Probably
members.
quite easily.
Welcome. So I'll now go to council officers. I'll start on my right today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ben Attrell. I'm a solicitor employed by the council. I'll be advising the planning committee today.
Welcome. Over to this side.
Good morning, Chair. David Hodges, Head of Development Management.
Good morning, Simon Turner. I'm a team leader in the planning department.
Morning, Lorna Juarez, Principal Planning Officer.
Jane Didino, Local Democracy Officer.
Welcome. And last but definitely not least, can I ask people to introduce themselves if they are going to be speaking and doing a deputation? If you're not speaking, then you're more than welcome to stay where you are, but just don't introduce yourself. So I'll start at this end. Hello.
Matthew Holland, speaking in support of item number 4.
Carrie-Anne Wells, Agent for Apical, representing 5 of the items on the agenda today. Thank you.
Anyone else on the back row? No, in which case we'll come to the next row.
Hi, Ben Christian, speaking in support of Springfield School.
Morning, Chair. Councillor Spencer Gardner, Drayton and Farlington, speaking in objection to 5 and 6, the Havant Road HMOs. I've got a question about possibly shifting the order of proceedings, but I don't know whether now would be an appropriate time to raise that or let you finish the introductions and then come back to it, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back to it. Hello.
I'm Martin Darper, speaking on agenda item 6 against the HMO, which is next door to a flat of my wife.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the meeting. Regarding switching it around, I'm just conscious of the fact that we've probably got equal numbers of people doing deputations. We've got someone coming to do deputation on the first one. So I believe it's second and third. Would it be all right if we stick to the agenda? agenda in the order it is, or you're going to make a case for swapping it?
I'll do my best to make a case, Chair. So I need to go away from 11 to 11:45.
Okay.
So certainly Springfield School to start, and that may take some time. I appreciate there's quite a lot to consider there. I've spoken to Mr. Diaper, who's kindly said he wouldn't mind waiting for me to get back. So if I'm not back in time, by the time Springfield School's finished, if you could perhaps proceed to one of the other ones and then come back to that one, so I'm back.
Okay, are we agreed on that? Yeah, agreed. Thank you.
I'm grateful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so where am I going now? Declarations of interest. I was just thinking that. Declarations of interest. Actually, I'm going to kick this off. Regarding the first item that we're going to come to, I used to be cabinet member for children, families and education, and was involved in some correspondence around supporting the application by Springfield to get funding and be put forward for a new bill from the DFE, which I was supportive of. That didn't involve any discussion about the planning issues that we have in front of us. So I consider this, that it doesn't materially affect my decision making, but I just wanted to declare it so that it was very transparent. Has anyone else got any declarations of interest on any of these items?
Chair, if none of the members have an interest to declare, just for the record, I understand my brother-in-law is a governor of Springfield School, and so I declare that publicly for a record, but I'm satisfied it's not a prejudicial issue for me in giving advice to the committee.
Thank you. Were there any apologies? No apologies.
Chair, apologies from Councillor Hunt. I know they're late apologies, but I just had a message from him.
Okay. I thought I'd seen him. But he's obviously got something else that's come up. Okay, so apologies from Councillor Hunt via Councillor Atwell. So regarding the minutes of the last meeting, which were under the supplementary agenda, anyone who is here from members, is anyone happy, well, are members happy to accept that these are an accurate record of the last meeting? Yes? Yes, so those are approved. And I think that means that we go on to the first item. Just for those people who've come to the meeting for the first time, there will be a presentation from the officer around the application, and then we will go to deputations, and they will be in the order of any objectors, supporters, the applicant and ward councillors in that order. And then members of the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions, and then we will be able to go to making comments, and then proposals are made. Okay, so over to the first presentation, please.
Thank you, Chair. The application before you is for the demolition of the existing school at Springfield and the construction of a new building with associated parking, access and landscaping. The application is before you at committee due to the level of objections to the scheme. The school itself is up in Drayton. It is a secondary school with the main access currently off Scholars Walk, which is off Central Road to the north of the site. It is proposed as part of this application that the access will move to Grove Road, with the school building being built on the playing field at the bottom, with the school facing forward and the playing fields where the current building is. There's been a lot of comments received in regards to the school being located in a flood zone, which I wanted to address. This is the present day EA mapping, which show that the school itself is in flood zone 1. It's not within flood zone 2 or 3, which has been stated in some of the objection letters. As you can see, the only bit which is in flood zone 2 and 3, it is a bit to the right and down to the bottom, which is the Farlington area. In future, we have had some mappings done, which is what is in front of you. So this is our strategic flood risk assessment, which shows that in 1 to 200 years, there is a chance the school could flood, as well as see a lot of the area. The school, therefore, has been designed to take this into account, that if it does flood, the school it's got raised floor levels, and it has got an escape route. This is just the existing site plan that you can see. The current school is separated into different buildings, and at the bottom of the site is the current playing areas with the running track and the football pitches. This is the existing school buildings. As you can see, they're varying sizes of blocks and varying ages. It's just some more pictures of the existing school and the mugger behind in the bottom left. You can just see it. These are the existing sports pitches. And then this is the proposed site plan. So as you can see, the school is switched over. This will be the main school building with the main entrance, vehicle and pedestrian access off Grove Road. To the left of the site plan, it will be the car park, and to the right will be the new mugger. To the back is the playing fields. There is still the track, the running track that goes round. This has been reduced from 8 to 4 lanes. There is still going to be access off Scholars Walk, which will be for pedestrians, so they can still enter the site that way. The elevations of the front elevation and the rear elevation. So the front elevation is the bottom picture of the southern one. So that is the main entrance to the school. To the left-hand side would be the sports hall. And to the right-hand side is the drama area, and then the rest are just your classrooms. Again, this is just the west and eastern elevations of the school. The floor plans, so as I stated, the sports hall to the left-hand side, which will be available to the local community to hire out, which is not available at the moment. There are lifts available, which are by the stairwells. So they are marked, it's very small, but they are marked on both stairwells. There are lifts available with accessible toilets on each floor. The first floor with a set of standard classrooms fit for their purpose, for educational purposes. You'll start to see that on the flat roofs there are the PV panels and also a green roof. And again, this is just utilising all the spaces. There is PV panels and also a ground source heat pump, which will be heating the school. There are lots of outdoor areas. So this here shows the mugger, which is being put in place, and also at the back there's different areas for children to go to. So we've got like Century Gardens and just seating areas, and that's all going to be landscaped. The car park, which will come off Grove Road now, and also you can see some of the bike stores. There's a lot of bikes storage being proposed on the site for the students and also teachers. There are going to be changes proposed to the highway because the main entrance is going to be off Grove Road. So some of these include access points for pedestrians to the site. There's also going to be traffic calming measures put in place, and one of the bus stops is going to be removed, but the one further down the site is still staying in place. There are a lot of trees on the site. The ones around the southern edge are all staying. The ones which have been removed are the ones which are in the middle of what will be the playing fields. This is just an example. These are some of the trees which are to be removed. As I said, located within by the buildings, the current buildings, and these ones which are going to be staying, which are along the boundary along Grove Road. It's just some CGI imaging of the school. So we've got the aerial view of the development, so you can see it with the surrounding buildings, with the Grove Road houses and other neighbouring properties. And the bottom picture is just the proposed eco garden, which is at the north of the site. Again, just some imagery of how the school will look. We've spent a lot of time with the agent and applicant on the materials and the colours of the school to make sure that they're not overpowering and they're more in keeping and more subtle. Again, this is part of the energy. There are canopies, and these are going to be PV canopies to help generate the electricity and also keep the students dry during lunchtime, so there's places for them to sit outside. Oh, and that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, we'll now move on to the deputations. The deputies have up to 6 minutes. I will time. You don't have to speak for 6 minutes, but you have up to 6 minutes. And we'll start off with the person objecting is Louise Goodeve. Louise? No? Not here. Okay. In which case, we'll move on to Matthew Holland, who is supporting this application. You have 6 minutes now.
Thank you very much, Chair. Very often these planning committee meetings are incredibly negative, and deputations focus on opposing applications. I mean, indeed, every other deputation on items today is in opposition to a motion. So I'm incredibly pleased to be speaking in favour of the Springfield School Development Project. I speak today as a former pupil of Springfield School in Drayton, where I graduated in 2019. Springfield is the place where I got my first experience of volunteering and community work, carrying out work experience in Year 10 at the World War I Remembrance Centre in Hilsey, and later raising money for a volunteering trip to Kenya, giving me a once-in-a-lifetime experience of charitable work in a developing country. I'm so grateful for the importance which was placed on these wider aspects of my education beyond mere teaching, which helped me to prepare me for so many of the opportunities I was lucky to have afterwards. I'm also incredibly indebted to the wonderful teaching I received at Springfield, being pushed further by teachers who believed in me and encouraged my ambition. I'm in no doubt that I would not have been able to study history at a top university had it not been for my amazing history teacher at Springfield, pushing me further and expanding my love of the subject. But sadly, the dire state of the school's buildings was constant, which affected much of the experience of me and my fellow pupils. And I remember distinctly the feeling of a school in decline as I saw the crumbling plaster and breeze box in my maths classroom, or felt how freezing my history class would get in the winter. School buildings are, to excuse the pun, the foundation of a child's education. And being able to study in purpose-built, high-standard buildings is fundamental to ensuring the high standards of education we should expect across all schools in this city. The proposals outlined provide high-level facilities for all pupils, with highlights such as a sensory garden, alongside lifts and ground floor classrooms, which will particularly support neurodivergent pupils, and a range of brand new sports facilities, which I would have appreciated myself when I studied GCSE PE, having instead to play on football on an uneven field with rusty goalposts, or play badminton in a hall with a roof that leaked. I'm particularly pleased about the attention to detail when it comes to sustainability, with cycle spaces, again, which would have helped me as a cyclist when I was going to school, more accessible garden spaces and green spaces, a roof garden, solar panels, and the ground source heat pump. I'm pleased by the transparent way in which these proposals have been shared with neighbouring residents, with a recent public meeting at the school, and acknowledged some of the concerns of residents, which related mostly to the interim impact of building works, and as has been mentioned about floodplains. Nevertheless, these proposals represent a chance to build a new quality school facility for Drayton and Farlington residents, and for those reasons, I stand in support of this application.
Thank you, Matthew. I will now go on to Ben Christian, who is the agent, and you have 6 minutes, Ben.
Thank you. Chair and members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm speaking in support of the planning application before you for the demolition of existing and the construction of the new Springfield School with associated parking, access and landscaping. I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant, Kier Construction and the Department for Education, who join me today in person and online. I'm also joined online by the De Curie Trust, who are the responsible body for the school. This application before you today is recommended for approval as outlined within your officer's comprehensive committee report. We are pleased to read that officers, consultees and hopefully members of this committee see that the proposed new school is a significant enhancement towards the education of young people in the Drayton and Farlington ward. The proposal also brings with it a wealth of benefits for the public, including facilities that can be hired and used by the community for sport and leisure. This application follows detailed planning and highway pre-application discussions alongside public engagement, which has resulted in no objections from consultees, a development that accords with the local plan, and a development that is specifically supported by paragraph 100 of the National Planning Policy Framework, which identifies the real importance of there being a sufficient choice of school spaces available to meet the needs of existing and new communities. The new school buildings and site layout have been carefully designed to result in a reduced levels of neighbour disturbance and improvement in amenity for local residents and users of the school when compared to the existing arrangement. The school will now be in a more prominent visible location, which is considered appropriate for its community function and will bring a positive enhancement to the frontage of Grove Road. These considerations, combined with improved landscaping and use of high quality materials, have resulted in a highly attractive design that will positively benefit the site and the community. As this is a replacement school development, the number of staff and pupils using the site will not materially change from the existing operations on site, but the accesses to the site have been slightly altered, with the main access now being from Grove Road rather than Scholars Walk. Whilst this does change the flow of movements to and from the site, Grove Road has sufficient capacity to handle these changes, both in terms of traffic flow and the parking. According to the school in its current operation, approximately 50% of pupils arrive from Grove Road and 50% via Scholars Walk, due to the location upon where they live. Travel to school by pupils is therefore not considered to change significantly. However, if there is an increase of access via Grove Road, the site has been carefully designed to accommodate this without having a detrimental impact on other users of Grove Road. This includes improved access, pedestrian improvements, enhanced road markings, and traffic calming facilities. All these items have been through in-depth discussions with highways officers to ensure they are both suitable for the school and community already using Grove Road. These features will also enhance the safety of existing users of Grove Road. The site is located in Flood Zone 1, and it's worth highlighting that the imagery of future flood mapping that was highlighted by the officer is the undefended position, and councillors will be aware there are sea defences. And the proposal is therefore considered suitable location for this type of development. That said, however, the applicant is aware of drainage challenges locally and has therefore introduced a range of enhancements through a drainage strategy to reduce surface water discharge from the site in a betterment than the existing surface water drainage position. The proposed development results in enhanced sports provision on site through better quality facilities. The proposals are accompanied by significant landscape and ecology enhancements through 65 new trees and over 10% biodiversity net gain provision. The new school building will be highly sustainable when in operation, which is being achieved through photovoltaic panels on the roof of the new building, external plant areas and external canopies and walkways. This is combined with ground source heat pumps, which are used to provide heating to the building, and the proposal achieves a BREEAM rating of excellent. In view of your officer's very positive committee report, the accordance of the proposed development with current, local and national policies and the substantial benefits to the public, we respectfully request that the application be approved as per your officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. Okay, members, any questions? Councillor Smythe, and then I'll come to Councillor Dent.
One very quick question, which probably demonstrates my age, is what is a MUGA?
Multi-use.
Okay. Thank you very much. I
Area.
was trying to work it out, but I had not personally come across the term before. And the second question is, are there going to be some new trees planted anywhere to replace those that are being taken down?
Yes, so I believe it's 65 new trees are going to be planted to improve what's been there and to mitigate what's been lost.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Councillor Dent.
I have a couple. First one, how long will the playing field be out of action while the building work is being taken place?
I believe the demolishing will start in 2027 and will take 2 years. I think if I'm corrected, then obviously the applicant, the agent can confirm that. But I do know that obviously the sports pitch has been out of action. The school has been in talks with Sports England about what's going to be done while there are no sports pitches available. But as I said, if the agent might be able to expand on that more than I can.
I'm happy for the agent just to add a comment if other members are, just on that particular thing.
6 months plus the growing season of the grass.
Thank you.
Anything else? It states that the new building will be for 1,200 pupils. How many pupils are there in the old school at the moment?
So it will be an increase of 65.
Next one. It says about bike storage, and it says substantial bike storage. How many is the bike storage?
Let me just check my report. I want to say 120, but I just want to double check. Yes, 120.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Atwell.
Hi, I just wonder if officers could expand on the remedies highlighted or the concerns highlighted in the public protection paragraph around noise and potential loss of public amenity. How those things will be addressed.
Bear with me, let me just find that paragraph.
Para 5.16.
So they will be controlled by condition in regards to the construction work. So there'll be a condition requiring all the information to be submitted and then approved prior to the construction of the site.
Okay, I'm not sure what that means.
Can I just ask a question related to that around, we're looking at planning permission today, would that be part of, is there any conditions, as you say, that was kind of very official kind of language, can you drill down a little bit as to what that looks like?
Yes, so I believe it's one of my planning conditions that I've added, which will require the applicant to submit details regarding how they're going to control the noise on the site, the dust levels, where the site compound is going to be located, the opening hours of it, any wheel wash facilities, things like that. So during the construction, it limits any muck on the road and reduces the impact on the local residents.
I feel there's a follow-up question.
No, there are concerns that we don't know the answers to those things ahead of giving planning permission, that's all. So we could be approving a planning application where the noise is crazy and the muck is everywhere and the hours of access to the site might not work for the local residents.
Sorry, just there was a draft one submitted as part of the application, which has been reviewed, and this is just a follow-up to make sure it's actual. So there was no objection raised to the one that was submitted. This is just additional detail and condition that's being attached. I don't know if David can add something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to point to it's the 13 requires a noise and vibration report, Chair. And also 12 is also a demolition method statement. So we're trying to cover those issues as best we can. There's limits to what we can do within the planning process about noise and disturbance during construction. And if a statutory nuisance is caused during the construction process, then that becomes a matter for public protection to pick up.
Councillor Mason.
Could you bring up the picture of the building as it will be?
Do you want the CGIs or the elevations, Chair?
A visual of what will be the that one, yeah. Looking at the windows, they appear to be complex windows, with one half being simply glazed and the other half being almost a set of panels of glass. Could you describe exactly what those windows will look like? Will they provide adequate daylight for the rooms so that the artificial light is not needed during classes, and normal weather that is? And are the windows opening to allow for natural ventilation? So could you say a little? My first question concerns the fenestration.
So the windows are designed with regards to the users inside to ensure that it's not over hot. The windows can be opened because there is no aircon. And yes, I can't remember, sorry, what else to add on that?
I think the Chair, the question was asked about daylight and orientation, and I'm going the wrong way. So this is north to south. So inevitably, we're designing the building. You end up with some north-facing rooms or south-facing rooms, depending on the orientation of the site. With this, you've got some suite of south-facing rooms, north-facing rooms along here, east-facing rooms along here, and west-facing rooms along there.
Could you speak to the microphone?
Sorry. Apologies.
I'm getting old and deaf.
So this plan is north-south. There's a north pointing upwards. So you would have classrooms and rooms in the building on the south here, along the north, along the east, and along the west. So you've got a balance. One of the criteria in PCS 15, Chair, is that we take advantage of solar gain in the design of buildings, and obviously a substantial part of the building is south-facing.
Okay, thank you. My second question, in the presentation you talked about the materials. It looks an interesting design. What are the materials which are being used in the lower and the upper floors, upper stories, facing Grove Road? So what will people be looking at?
So the bottom is a red multi-facing brick, and then the up above is a light colour cement cladding, and then the sports hall is a dark grey cement cladding, which we have had samples of them delivered to the office, so we've been able to discuss with the conservation design officer the texture and the colour, and to make sure they were suitable for this location and for the school.
Right, thank you. And my third one, following up from Councillor Dent, mere 120 bike spaces seems quite small for the number of staff and the number of pupils who will be attending on a daily basis. Has any study been made to ensure that there will be adequate bike storage space?
So they have had some surveys undertaken with the modes of transport that pupils use to gain the school. The highways officer has reviewed all the information and he's satisfied with the number of cycle stores being proposed and their location. As part of our guidance, I don't think we have a set number. So as I said, the highways officer is satisfied that there is enough being provided.
Let's hope so. Thank you.
Councillor Smythe, I had myself on the list. Can I jump in before? It's a really simple question. I noticed that the car park for staff has been relocated as part of the design, which is very positive. Can I just check whether that is the same size or an increased size or a reduced size?
It is unchanged.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Smythe.
My question relates to Councillor Mason's question. Is there any easy way of extending the bike store should that be necessary? That's the first question. And the second one, I'll do when the answer to that one is forthcoming.
Chair, I think that's all is potentially achievable. Just conscious of in that particular position, we want to avoid any conflict with these retained trees, which are the Cat B and Cat A best trees on the site. But if there is a need, there's plenty of opportunity within the site for the school to extend the cycle parking. Also, remember, it is an urban school with an urban catchment. The travel distance for pupils is constrained within the city, so it's Drayton, Farlington, Cosham, Highbury. So facilitating a number of the pupils will be able to walk to the school, and we have facilitated the opportunity for those who live a little bit further to cycle there as well. But also, as Lorna has described, that's coming from evidence from the school itself about the travel patterns currently.
Thank you. My second question concerns those south-facing classrooms. The development of that school wasn't entirely satisfactory because of the heat of the classrooms on the south face. Have the developers this time the designers, have they taken into account the experience of Mayfield School and their very, very hot classrooms? And is there anything more that we could do at this stage of the planning permission to make sure that the environment is cool enough to learn in the hot summers we're likely to get?
So the building will be designed to the BREEAM excellence as part of our condition, and the heating and the cooling has been reviewed and looked at. So the heating is provided by the ground source heat pump, and there is also the passive cooling, which is done in the summer months. So it has all been looked at. And again, some of the windows can be opened for increased ventilation if needed.
Are you satisfied that those south-facing classrooms will be designed in such a way as to avoid the problems they have had in Mayfield School?
Chair, I think from the planning side, we're not aware of the issues at Mayfield School. We're being advised that there has been problems with that. That's noted. That doesn't mean that this scheme can't work. So here's our opportunity with a school that's taken advantage of rooms on all faces of the building to use that natural light. Yes, understood those issues, but in terms of the built quality of the building, we can insist, as Lorna has described, for a BREEAM excellent standard under PCS 15. But beyond that, those issues become a matter for building regs.
Councillor Valley.
This is probably in here and I just can't find it. Obviously, there's underground drainage. Is there lots of drainage on the top, on the land?
No, the attenuation is situated under the staff car park. So that's where the tank will be. And the rest of the drainage will just all be captured.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
I've got Councillor Mason and then Councillor Atwell.
In your presentation, you mentioned the lifts, which presumably will be available to any students with disabilities. Can you show me how this building will work for other disabled pupils? Will they be able to access all parts?
Yes, it's all accessible. They're step-free, and as there are lifts going to all the floors, and there are accessible toilets on all the floors. So yes. There's also, in one of the areas, there's a special SEN area for people who need the calming situations.
Secondly, if I could follow up on the question from Councillor Bellally. The playing fields to the north of the school will be slightly higher than the school, I would have thought. How are they being drained? How are the playing fields being drained?
So there is a condition being added which requires that information because the exact details of those playing fields has not been designed yet. So once they are designed, the drainage will be incorporated and then will be discharged via condition.
Thank you.
Chair, I was just going to add, but the development does offer the opportunity for a betterment in that regard, in terms of the use of sustainable drainage throughout the playing field system, attenuation under the car park, as Lorna's described, which allows then to moderate the amount of runoff from the site and how quickly that goes into the other drains in the main systems during an extreme event. So we're satisfied overall. This allows us to do a much better drainage solution than we have from the 1960s school, and it's incremental additions.
Thank you for that. Members, are there any other... Oh, sorry, Councillor Atwell.
Just wondered if officers could confirm how many parking spaces have been lost or will be lost along Grove Road.
So there's 3 lost altogether. The other ones will be out of action between 8 and 4.
How many?
Bear with me, let me just check my report. Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't made a note of the exact amount of parking being lost during 8 and 4. I've only made reference to the 3 overall. Just going to see if I can try and find your answer quickly for you.
Chair, are there any further questions while we just look that up?
Yeah, I don't think so. I'd look for any further questions?
Ben, do you know the answer? No, okay. While we're looking at this, just also, I forgot to mention on this SMAT item, the ecology condition wording has changed. And the answer is 26 spaces during school hours.
Is that net? Would any be gained from the change in the entrance? So obviously at the moment the entrance is to the north. I don't know, I can't remember what the parking is along there, but would it be gained there and then lost on the south with the new entrance? I know the northern entrance will remain open, but in terms of parking?
There is parking along the neighbouring roads. So I don't know if it's necessarily lost and gained on the north, but I do know that on the surveys that were done, there are additional parking spaces available on the surrounding streets.
I suppose what I meant was the temporary loss of parking on Grove Road is to do with the reconfiguration of the entrance, which presumably has zigzags, which with the time, like during school hours, people can't park there and then they can afterwards, which we've seen in a lot of schools around the city. Is there an equivalent of that in the northern bit? Or I can't remember the name of the road at the moment, which would then be gained as a result of switching the main entrance? Because I'm assuming that it will be a different kind of entrance from the north.
Chair, I presume you mean on Central Road, where yes, yeah.
That's the one.
Yes, I can see that clearly it's zigzagged out and traffic calmed at the moment, but we're not aware of any plan to take that feature out, as I understand it currently. No.
Okay, so there's a net loss. I think it would be useful to have more information about this, because in actual fact, if there's a change of use in that entrance, so it becomes, for example, pedestrian only, then the highways could be reviewed to see whether the zigzags are needed if it's not a vehicle access, and that might compensate for the loss on Grove Road. Yeah.
Yes, noted, I think, Chair.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I think then we move on to comments. Councillor Mason's first.
I held the education portfolio even before you did. And
Was that before schools?
When 20 years ago, going around that school, it was already at that stage looking tired. And certainly it has deteriorated since. So it is important that we do have a new school here. It is, as the deputy made, as Mr. Holland made, it is much needed. I had a number of questions about the design, about the building structure and about the drainage, and I think those have all been well answered, and it looks as if this will be a well thought through, well constructed school, and so I'm happy to propose the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Valley, do you want to just say second, or do you want to comment?
I totally agree with everything he's just said, so I won't repeat it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. Sorry, Councillor Cordy.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this development seems to be to a very high standard. I think it's crucial that that pupils have the best possible facilities to enhance the chances of their success. But one of the areas that we do have to consider today is
Can you use your mic?
Is the impact on the living conditions of people in the local area. So I do understand the objections around noise and air pollution during the construction, but as the officers have explained, there is a mitigating strategy in place. So I'm happy to go with Councillor Mason on this.
Thank you very much for that comment. Any other comments? No, I'd just like to add my support for this. Having gone through several school building projects over the years, the attention to detail is good, and we have to learn from. I know we're here to look at the application in front of us, but we have to learn, and I really appreciate the questions that have been raised by members around things that maybe didn't work quite as well in other schools, but much needed. And just for information for people, the model of rebuilding a school now has to be done where there's space on the site to rebuild it. We can't ship children out to other places over a long period of time. And so this is a perfect example of how that can be done and done well. And I'm actually optimistic that having two entrances will influence the way that that children and staff arrive at school. So I'm happy to support that. So we have a proposal in front of us by Councillor Mason to support the officer's recommendation for a planning permission approval, and it's seconded by Councillor Vallely. We have all those in favour, please can you indicate now? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is unanimous. That is in support of, and so therefore planning permission is granted. Thank you very much for people who came along and for the deputations. And yeah, you obviously don't have to stay. You can get on with the rest of your day unless you're interested in the remaining 9. Okay. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but Councillor Gardner asked us to wait for him to come back to do the next 2 items. He's not back at the moment. So, I believe that would take us on to item 7. Which is 7 Sandringham Road. Change of use of a small HMO, C4, 6 occupants to allow occupation as an HMO with 7. So I believe that we need to initially decide whether this needs planning permission, members. So does anyone want
Chair, before we get to that, I think we should hear the presentation
Of
first.
course,
Yeah.
of course. Yes, you're right. Got that in the wrong order. Thanks for reminding me. Okay, so we'll hear the officer's presentation from Simon.
Thank you, Chairman. An application at 7 Sandringham Road in Fratton Ward for the change of use from a small HMO, Class C4 with 6 occupants, to allow occupation as an HMO with 7 occupants. The application has come to committee because of the numbers of objections and at the request of Councillor Vernon Jackson. So, as you just mentioned, Chair, the increase in occupancy of 1 person in this instance, officers do not believe that results in a material change of use, and therefore planning permission is not required, and the report is set out with that in mind. But as is normal practice, members will decide themselves whether or not they feel in this instance planning permission is required. If they do believe it is required, they'll go on to assess the merits of the application. So this application is for a terraced property in Fratton Ward. So on the left-hand side there, north-south, is Fratton Road. So it's right in the centre of Fratton there, with the local centre, buses, services, shops, and Fratton train station a bit further to the south. In terms of mixed and balanced communities and the main PCS 20 policy, you may have noticed from the planning history, the site has already achieved planning consent for a Class C3, C4 flexible use, and it was already deemed to be Class C4. It was a delegated decision, by the way. That was an error in the report saying it was a planning committee decision. So there's no change if this is approved with an increase of occupancy. There's no change as to whether or not there's an HMO. The presence of an HMO is unchanged. So that has no bearing on the mixed and balanced community in terms of the numbers of HMOs. For completeness, we've told you there are 16 out of 111 properties, which is a percentage of 14.41, but that would not change. Moving on to the layout of the property, it would be remodelled now to achieve the one extra person in it, both internally and with an external rear roof permitted development extension. You can see that on the bottom right. That's the rear roof extension under permitted development rights, and on the ground floor the remodelling and firming up of what is a conservatory. Just above that one you can make out the conservatory, and that would be remodelled and put on with a proper roof and so on for better, more insulated occupation. In terms of the accommodation inside, so I've just mentioned it would be internally reconfigured. So coming in through the front door, you would go straight through into a kitchen dining room that is 23.27 square metres, just beyond the 22.5 minimum set out in your guidance. There's also a ground floor WC, which wasn't mentioned in the report. And then we have 7 HMO bedrooms, each with an ensuite that you can see, 2 on the ground floor, 3 on the first floor, and 2 in the new roof space under permitted development. They would all comply or exceed the minimum size standards. A and then B, we're satisfied in terms of the general configuration and layout and light. They would provide a suitable standard of accommodation. So officers are able to recommend the application for approval.
Thank you. So we'll now go on to deputations, and we just have one from Carrie-Anne Wells, who's the agent, speaking on behalf of the agent.
Thank you and good morning everyone. This application seeks permission to change 7 Sandringham Road from its current lawful use as a C4 HMO to a 7-bed HMO. At last use, the property accommodated 5 residents sharing just 1 bathroom and 1 WC. Under this proposal, the property will be upgraded to provide 7 bedrooms, each with its own private ensuite, which is a substantial enhancement to the quality of accommodation. Instead of residents competing for limited shared facilities, every occupier will have privacy, dignity and convenience, and this far exceeds the minimum requirements set out in the HMO SPD and demonstrates a commitment to raising standards of shared living. The communal kitchen area provides 22.79 square metres, which meets your 22.5 square metre requirement when all bedrooms are at least 10, ensuring residents benefit from both private and shared space of high standard. There is also an additional WC on the ground floor for the comfort of the residents, cleaners and the maintenance team. Concerns raised by neighbours around amenity are understood. However, I think it's important to stress that this is not a new HMO, but an enhancement of an existing one. The upgrade from shared facilities to 100% ensuite provision represents a marked improvement in the living standards, and the modest increase from 5 to 7 is proportionate and policy compliant. I respectfully ask that you agree with the officer recommendation for approval today, as the proposal fully complies with PCS 17, PCS 20 and PCS 23 of the local plan, and also complies with the Housing Multiple Occupation Supplementary Planning Document 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie-Anne. I think you covered the information in the SMAT, didn't you, Simon? Yeah. Okay. Members, questions, first of all? Oh, no. So do I just double check the procedure now? Do we just go to a comments about whether we think it needs planning permission, or do I just ask that question?
I would ask the question of
Yeah,
the committee.
just ask the question of the committee. Do we think, in the first instance, that this needs planning permission? All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All those against? 2 and 1 abstention. So that carries. So we will now talk to this application as if it needs planning permission. So Councillor Dent has got to leave. He's given me his reasons why. Okay, so I don't think that actually makes any difference to that vote. We just had the vote because he's just left the meeting, so we'll still carry on. So, okay, questions, members? Comments, members? If we decided it needs planning permission, we need some comments. Councillor Smythe.
I think this is a substantial improvement to an existing HMO. It doesn't change the balanced community objectives, and I would move that we approve this application, which is clearly a better quality of HMO than was there before. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments or counter proposals? Oh, there was a draw then. Councillor Valley.
I'd like to second that, please.
Okay. Councillor Mason, do you want to say something?
HMOs exist whether we like them or not. This is a marked improvement on what was there before. It has been done at the expense of getting one more person in, but that person will have a much better experience than the people had in the existing HMO. So I think it is a very good move, and I think we should support it.
Anyone else want to make a comment or a counter proposal? Okay. All right then. In which case we have a proposal in front of us to give planning permission for and in reflection of officers' recommendations to approve this. And all those in favour? Okay,
I
thank
believe
you.
we need to put new conditions on, because the conditions, the recommendation is that it didn't need planning permission. We need to put the conditions on about the
Thank you for reminding me.
Rather than me publicly embarrassing myself by not knowing the exact details of those.
Can we have
ask
some
for-
help?
Thank you very much indeed. So we'd have a time limit condition, the plans condition, a water efficiency, bike storage, implementation of the rear roof extension, and Section 111 legal agreement for SPA, Special Protection Areas mitigation.
So with those conditions, thank you very much. All those in favour? For? All those against? And all those abstaining? Okay, therefore that is carried with my vote, I believe. Thank you very much. Councillor Gardner has still not come back in, so we'll just keep ploughing on until he does. The moment he does, we'll go back to those other agenda items. So we now move on to agenda item 8, which is 70 Woodley Road, which is a change of use from C3 to C3 or C4. David, is this you presenting?
No, Chair, can I introduce Harry Burden, who is going to present this item? I don't think Harry was expecting to be on and presenting his item quite this early, having deferred the two on, postponed the two on Drayton Relay. So I'll hand over to Harry to present this.
Welcome, Harry, and sorry you had to rush over.
That's okay. Good morning, everyone. So this is 70 Woodley Road, and it's a change of use from a Class C3 to purposes between C3 and C4. So Woodley Road is up in the north of the island, sort of a Tipner area, and 70 Woodley Road is on the corner of Child Square and Woodley Road. There you can see the property on the corner there, currently accessed from Child Square, which is that road just running to the west. Next slide, if that's okay. So the 50-metre count, at the moment, there aren't any HMOs that we could identify within 50 metres. So with the application being approved, it would be 1 HMO out of 66 residential properties, which is a percentage of 1.51. The existing floor plans, so there are 3 bedrooms and a lounge, kitchen, dining room and conservatory on the ground floor, and then the 3 bedrooms upstairs with a bathroom. And the proposed change of use is to 6 bedrooms with a kitchen and dining room communal space on the first floor, which you can see there by the bay window. So 2 bedrooms on the first floor and then 4 on the ground floor. There would be various internal changes to make that work. The front door is changing to Widley Road, whereas previously it was accessed from Child Square. That is covered within the permitted development regime. So there you can see some of the other changes. Another bedroom window is being added to the ground floor, which is on bedroom 3. Yep, bedroom 3 has a new ground floor window. There's a very small change in the roof of the conservatory, which you can just see on the right there, on the rear elevation. And then that would also change to a full-length door, giving access to the garden. Previously it was bifold doors as existing, which you can see on that rear elevation. Here's a section. Every room complies with the relevant legislation, space standards even, and are at least 2.5 metres in height. This is the block plan, so bins will be not in a structure but on the forecourt at the front, and then bikes will be accessed from the garden. There is an access to the garden from Child Square, and that will remain. You can also access through, there's an alleyway just to the west there, so there's 2 entrances to the garden, but in any such case there shouldn't be a problem with manoeuvring a bike into that. Here are some photos. So because there are quite a few internal alterations going on, this is not what it will look like, but you can see bedroom 1 with the bay window there at the top left. Bedroom 3 is roughly where the living room is at the moment, where that fireplace is. Bed 6 upstairs, and then bed 5. And then that bay window on the left there is where the new kitchen, dining and communal space will be. That will be on the first floor, and then the conservatory is where the new bedroom 4 and part of bedroom 3 will be, I believe. And then there's the existing garden. The access to that garden is just below you to the right in those photos. Unfortunately, on-site visit couldn't get into the conservatory, but you can see that it just wraps around, and then the garden as well from over the fence. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much. So we have 1 deputation for this, and it's Carrie-Anne again.
Thank you. I'm here today on behalf of my client regarding 70 Widley Road, an application for the change of use from a C3 dwelling house to a 6-bed house and multiple occupation. As with all the applications I present to you, this property has been designed to be fully compliant with planning policy, building regulations and licensing standards. Every single bedroom in this proposal meets or exceeds 10 square metres, each with good natural light and ventilation. The required communal space for 6 occupiers is 22.5, and this property comfortably exceeds that at 25 square metres, offering a well-proportioned, usable living area. In this property, the client has opted to make use of a large bay at the front of the property on the first floor for the communal area, which is different to what members might be used to seeing when we utilise the extension at the rear of the property. The property as existing is a large property, and there's no extensions or loft conversions needed for this proposed 6-bed scheme. There are no HMOs in the 50-metre radius, and therefore it could be argued that there is a clear need for this type of housing in this particular area. Cycle storage will be located at the rear, and there is a side gate access to make cycle ownership and storage easier for those tenants who cycle. Again, there have been the usual objections reminding officers that Widley Road is a family area with a community feel. I think we need to remember HMO tenants have families too, sons, daughters, sisters, brothers, and we cannot apply one standard for families and another for sharers just because the term HMO carries a certain stigma. What matters is that the property is safe, well designed, policy compliant and well managed, and this scheme has all of those things. HMO tenants should be welcomed into such a community and not made to feel like outsiders from the outset. This application fully complies with policy PCS 17, PCS 20 and PCS 23 of the local plan and is also fully compliant with the Houses and Multiple Occupation Supplementary Document. I ask that you please approve in line with officer recommendation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carrie-Anne. Okay, there's no other deputation, so members, are there any questions? No question. I've got a question, but it's not a planning one. I'm just curious as to why they decided to develop it with the kitchen and shared area upstairs, which is unusual, but that's not material planning consideration. You don't happen to know, do you?
Not sure,
No.
apart from it felt like a very big room. So a lot of natural light there.
Okay. That was just curiosity. Any other questions, members? No? Any... Well, we'll move to comments then and proposals. Any comments? Any proposals? Councillor Mason.
We've come to expect high quality development from Apple Core PDM. And this one is, I think, of a good standard. Given that there are no other HMOs within the radius, it would be sensible to develop this one. It would produce a mixed and balanced community, I think. And so I propose the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Does anyone else want to? Councillor Atwell.
At the risk of sound like a broken down gramophone record, it doesn't reach our parking standards. I also hear the very full explanation of why that is not a reason to move a motion for refusal, but I will be consistent and I will be supporting this planning application.
I will jump in at that point and second Councillor Mason's proposal. Are there any other comments from anyone else? No, in which case there is a motion before us which and to move officer's recommendation and ward planning permission. All those in favour? 4. All those against? 4. So it's that chair's vote again. It's becoming a bit of a theme. Yes, previous it was abstentions, that was it. So therefore planning permission is granted. Thank you, everyone. No, Councillor Gardner still, so we'll go on to item 9. Is this Simon? This is 18 Longbridge House, Meriden Road. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application at 18 Longbridge House on Meriden Road in St Thomas Ward for the change of use from a house in multiple occupation chart class C4 to a flexible permission within class C4 or class C3 dwelling house. The application's come to committee because of some objections and because the freeholder owner of the site is the City Council. We did have a deputation down from Michelle Rickman, but I don't think she is here today. And there was no supplementary matters updates. Okay, this is just south of the university at the end of Guildhall Walk there. It's actually in the Summers Orchard development area, right next to the main developments there that members saw last summer. This is a 4-storey post-war block with maisonettes of 2 stories each. This is one of the upper maisonettes, so it's on the first, second, third and fourth stories. There it is. So it's the upper 2-tier level there. So members may have noticed a planning history from 2015. There was a change of use from C3 dwelling house to the flexible C3, C4 consent, which allows flexibility to move between C3 dwelling house or C4 small HMO across a 10-year period without needing to gain planning consent each time. At the end of that 10-year period, whatever the use is, C3 or C4, that is the fixed lawful use at the end of that period. So we have, this application came in as a Class C3 application, which was mistaken. We've seen enough evidence in the form of licensing data, council tax, planning records, etc., that this has been in lawful C4 use throughout the 10 years as it happens, and finishing at the end of the 10-year period this summer, it was in C4 use. So there's no need to apply for a lawful development certificate. It's clearly a lawful C4 use already, and the applicant simply wishes to have another 10-year period of the flexible use between C4 and C3. So in terms of mixed and balanced communities, it makes no difference because it is already an HMO. For completeness, you can see there are 6 HMOs, including this one in the 50-metre radius, and that would be 11.3%, which would remain unchanged. Then moving on to the proposed layout. So on the left-hand side, the front door is off the covered walkway in these developments. You come in the front door there, and you've got a WC just on the right of the door, left as you see it. And then the kitchen, a decent-sized kitchen on the left-hand side there. A store under the stairs. And then at the back facing south is a living room, and then bedroom number 1. And then upstairs, bedrooms 2, 3 and 4, with a variety of couple of internal fitted cupboard type things, stores, a laundry room, and the bathroom at the front, top right there. For completeness, we've noted that we would normally expect, this is the instance of rather than having a large communal room, the alternative is 3 communal rooms. Here, as you notice, there are 2, the kitchen and the living room. We haven't sought to argue that that is acceptable accommodation in officers of view because of the large size of the bedrooms, because all the bedrooms, if you look on the table, required to be 6.51 in this instance, and they are beyond that, especially bedroom 4. So we haven't put it in the reports, but we're satisfied there's a good standard of accommodation for 4 people, single occupancy rooms, and we've got a condition to that effect. I would also add, though, in any event, the site is lawful as C4, so were planning permission to be refused for some reason, it would remain in C4 use. The applicant is simply seeking a new 10-year period of flexible use between C3 and C4. I think those are the key points for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Carrie Ann, over to you.
Thank you. 18 Longbridge House is an application for C3, C4 flexible use. As the officer has explained, this application was unfortunately incorrectly submitted by another agent, and the property is lawfully a C4 HMO use, not C3 as originally submitted. Council tax licensing and planning records have shown this has been the case for at least 10 years, and in fact well before the Article 4 direction was implemented in 2011. The property has been in the same ownership prior to 2011, and the owner purely seeks to extend the flexible use of the property for another 10 years. The property does not create a new HMO. Instead, it simply allows the property to move between Class C3 and Class C4 without requiring repeated planning applications. That flexibility is modest, sensible and entirely consistent with national and local planning policy. For landlords of smaller HMOs, this flexibility allows the property owner to change tenant type as and when the market dictates, providing a valuable addition to both C3 and C4 use classes. The property already provides a good standard of quality accommodation, meeting the standards set out in the Portsmouth SPD. No physical changes are proposed, and the private sector housing has confirmed that the property is appropriately licensed, currently for 4 people, until 2029. Comments have been made on the use of double beds, but I want to reassure members today that double beds have been provided for the comfort of the tenants only. There is no intention for double use, and the property has been licensed for a maximum of 4 occupiers. Each room is for single occupancy only, and if you wanted to put a condition on there, that would be entirely acceptable to the applicant also. I note that no objections have been submitted. However, members should be reassured that this isn't an intensification of use, but simply a request for flexibility. The lawful HMO use is already established and continues to comply with planning and licensing requirements. No external alterations or physical works are proposed, and there's no increase to occupancy. A late question from the officer has questioned the bin and cycle provision. I wanted to confirm that there's communal bins for the flats, and every property benefits from a cycle shed, which holds approximately 3 cycles. In conclusion, this is a policy compliant and straightforward application which confirms and protects the lawful C4 HMO use and allows flexible use between C3 and C4. The owner of this property has several smaller HMOs in Portsmouth, of which there are increasingly dwindling numbers within Portsmouth. The bureaucracy which has led to this delay in gaining flexible planning permission for a property that has consistently been used as HMO well before the Article 4 direction was implemented is just one reason why many small HMO landlords are exiting the HMO market. 18 Longbridge House represents exactly the kind of small-scale, well-managed HMO that the city needs to retain as part of its balanced housing mix. By confirming its lawful C4 status and granting this flexible use, the Council safeguards that contribution. It's disappointing that this matter has had to come before committee today, taking up members' time and officer resources unnecessarily. I don't believe this application warrants committee debate. It's policy compliant, lawful and straightforward, and I believe it's a poor use of planning officers' and committee resources. I feel like it's important to stress to refuse this application today does not mean the property will no longer be a C4 HMO, as that use has been clearly established. If the decision is made to refuse, then all this achieves is stopping the landlord being able to use the property for C3 use if the need arises. I therefore respectfully ask that you confirm the lawful position and approve this application in line with officer recommendation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, questions? Councillor Mason.
Just because the material before me is so small and I couldn't read it on the screen, what are the rooms, small rooms, to the, as it were, to the top of bedroom 3? There are 2, are they just store cupboards?
Yes. So the one on the left-hand side there, opening directly into the room, thank you, David, is a store, or labelled as a store, walk-in cupboard, and the second one that opens onto the hallway is labelled as a laundry room.
Okay, and therefore I assume also that the alcove and towards the entrance of bedroom 2 is also a store cupboard, where the door appears to be opening and closing onto an alcove.
Yes, thank you. They haven't shown a door to it, so it looks like a walk-in. It'll be shelves,
Right.
that sort of thing, fitted shelves, I imagine.
Yep.
Or just a space.
Thank you.
Any other questions, first of all? Comments, proposals? Councillor Valley.
I'd like to propose that we agree this one, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Mason.
I would like to second it. It seems very sensible. If we don't do this, there is no opportunity for it to revert to a C3 without a special planning meeting. It gives the flexibility and continues the flexibility in the property. So it strikes me as a no-brainer. I second.
Any other comments or different proposals? Okay, so we have a proposal in front of us from Councillor Valley, seconded by Councillor Mason, to approve officers' recommendations. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favour. All those against? 0, and those abstaining? 3. Thank you. Therefore, planning permission is granted. Okay, we're whizzing through this. Still no Spencer. I'm so sorry you've had to wait this long. We would have gone back to it, I promise. Okay, so item number 10, which is 5 Poplar Walk, construction of a fence. And I think David's presenting this. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Need to get it in presentation mode first. Yes, so this is an application at 5 Poplar Walk, construction of a 2-metre high fence. This is a householder application. This comes to the Planning Committee solely because the applicant is a member of staff. So Poplar Walk, as you can see there, is in effect a small cul-de-sac of properties access. That route in is pedestrian only, so they've got parking to the rear, the parking court that you can see there. And as you see from the red line, the applicant owns all of the land, both in their private rear garden here, and then this front area of land in front of the property. So their proposal is very straightforward, is just to enclose that area of land with a 2-metre high fence. So in terms of what that means, currently your long-range view terminates in a brick wall there, and then it will be the fence that you will see first if the proposal is approved. So there's no formal change of use required. It's already domestic land and already owned by the applicant. We did and ah about whether it actually needs planning permission. You only need planning permission for a fence over 1 metre where where it's adjacent to a highway, and on balance we felt that the access up to the properties was a highway where people could pass and repass to get to the front of the properties. But yes, I mean that was purely the reason that needed planning permission. So looking up the view, so top left you can see highlighted in red where the fence will go, and then bottom right in the photo the fence will come out along this line here. And again, just some views again where you'll see the fence on the left hand side, and then from the right, just to highlight that the end property does have a view down into the fenced off area. However, obviously the applicant has a private rear garden to the rear of their house, and we're not concerned about any relationship between there once the area is fenced off. So overall, as I say, Chair, only coming to you because it's a member of staff. We're satisfied it's a minor impact in terms of its visual appearance, and we're happy to recommend it for approval.
Thank you, David. Members, any questions? Comments? Proposals? Councillor Smythe.
I'd like to move approval of this. If I owned that house, exactly what I want to do, and it looks like it's going to be done to a good standard. Approve.
Thank you. And Councillor Valley looks like.
I'd like to second it, thank you.
So, proposal to move officer's recommendation proposed by Councillor Smythe, seconded by Councillor Valley. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Unanimous. Therefore, planning permission is granted. Thank you. Perfect timing, Councillor Gardner, because we've just got to the end of everything else. I'm actually going to propose, because Mr. Dipe has been sitting here patiently, that actually we go to item 6, if that's all right, and then do it, then 6, then 5. So item 6 is 252 Havant Road. So I believe that Simon is doing the presentation. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application at 252 Havant Road in Drayton and Farlington Ward. The application has come because of the numbers of objections received. It is the change of use of part of the ground floor from a Class E commercial use and of the entire upper floor, which is currently a flat, to a 9-bedroom, 9-person house and multiple occupation with external alterations, including the construction of a mansard roof and a single-storey rear extension. I'll take you through all those details. So we have Councillor Gardner and Mr Diaper speaking, I think, against the application, and the planning agent in favour in due course. So we are on the Havant Road, in the Havant Road local shopping centre, just a bit further east than Cosham. If you just go backwards, please, Dave, we've got the red edge. No, that's the other one, isn't it? I'm getting muddled up now. Before I forget, you would have seen on the agenda that there is another application about 3 doors to the west, which is for number 246, which we'll come to in due course as well. But they're 2 separate applications. So this application has a side access you can just about make out on the western side. It's a shared access way with the property to the west, which is number 250, where Mr Diaper has an interest. And so that shared access leads down then into the rear parking area, yard area for the application premises. Thank you. So that is the application property, the right-hand side there of that pair. Currently funeral directors with a flat upstairs in the local parade. You can see the street scene. That is the mansard that is proposed to add a further storey of accommodation. Moving on. Thank you. With respect to the mixed and balanced communities, there are no HMOs currently in the 50-metre radius. With this one, if it were approved, that would be 1 out of 26, which is 3.85. Were this and number 246 next on the agenda to be approved, there would be a total of 7.41, just for your completeness. So in either event, there wouldn't be deemed to be an over-concentration, and so a mixed and balanced community will be deemed to be followed and policy complied with. Take you through the floor plans. So currently the ground floor funeral directors, and there is a first floor flat, a series of windows, and the front door are down the side facing onto the access way. Most of those would be retained, and then we have the mansard that you'll see in the next slides that would take us up. So at the rear, the bottom you can see that's a single-storey rear extension that I'll show you in photographs as well where it sits, and that is a fire escape stairs coming out of its back door for a bedroom. Because of the sloping land and to avoid any possibility of overlooking, that would be a frosted screen to that fire escape should the occupier of the bedroom, for example, use it more frequently and want to stand there with a cup of coffee or fag or something like that to avoid any overlooking. The same for the window adjacent, and that's secured by condition. Thank you. Next slide, please. There you can see the mansard roof. This is the western view, so the bottom view is the western elevation. So to the left is the front Havant Road, and you come down the side access way towards the rear of the site. So you can make out the front door halfway along. You can make out to the rear the single-storey extension, and then above you can see the mansard roof. Now, bearing in mind this is an existing first-floor flat, we've not sought to control any of the first-floor windows in terms of the intervisibility with number 50 to Mr. Diaper's property opposite, because it's an existing flat. So replacing a flat occupier with an HMO occupier is broadly speaking the same difference. But on the mansard roof you can see the left hand of the 2 windows. That's marked with a brise soleil. That's effectively like those Venetian blinds that are permanent on the outside of the window that funnel your view, instead of directly opposite into, I think it's a kitchen window in number 250, it directs it past, in this instance, to the front, I think. So it avoids that intervisibility. Because that's a new window and it's above the flat next door at 250, that's why we're able to impose that device to ensure the privacy is maintained for both the new occupiers and for the existing neighbouring occupier, without affecting unduly the light in and the outlook from that new bedroom up there. Thank you, David. So moving on to the proposals. So the existing ground floor is funeral directors. That would be significantly giving over to the new HMO, if approved, but a small commercial unit retained at the front that you can make out there, with its own toilet and store and the shop front. Moving into the HMO, if approved, the front door is there, thank you. If you turn left from the front door, you get into an ensuite bedroom, or turn right, past the shared WC, into the shared communal space, and then at the rear, bedroom 2 with its ensuite, and that is the extension on the ground floor and the escape stair there. Then up on the upper 2 floors, you've got a series of ensuite bedrooms for all of those. And bedroom 8, you can see, that's the one with the window with the brise soleil, dealing with the privacy issue. So with respect to the living conditions for the future occupiers, if approved, the combined living space is 26.7, that's above the 22.5. And then all of the bedrooms are some distance beyond the 10 square metres, ranging, there's one at 10.7, but otherwise they're around about 14, 16, 15. So all good size rooms, providing a good standard of size, and we feel also orientation, layout and outlook and light. So we're happy with the proposals for them. Otherwise, we're satisfied we've dealt with the amenity with respect to the neighbours, both to the west, number 250, and to the south, properties further south. During the course of the application, if we could go to the, please, to the side elevations, David. It's back a few slides. Thank you. The application came in with the mansard was extending the full depth of the building. We felt that was because of the falling land to the rear, to the south, that was becoming somewhat dominant, and so we asked the applicant to remove the bedroom there and step back the mansard roof, which they obliged with. Otherwise, if we could move on to the photos, thank you, where we were a moment ago. Just hopefully it's there. So in the top left is the current rear of the building. That is where the rear extension would go. That would require removal of half of that hedge there, and the southern half would be retained. The left, top right picture is the side of the property. And then the bottom left picture, that's standing on the rear access point. This is where the new extension would be. So you can see the relationship to the dwellings to the south. They're at lower level, and that's why we didn't want such a large mansard up above, and why we've got the privacy screen on the new proposed fire escape there. And the bottom right is looking up at the development on the right-hand side there. That's where the single-storey extension would be. And that pitched roof would be removed and cut back with the mansard placed on top of that. Just some more detailed images. Oh, the bottom two are from the neighbours to the south, looking up to the development. So the bottom right is quite well screened, a bit more screened by the vegetation. Bottom left is from number 39, sorry. That is why you can see the single-storey extension would just peak above the outbuilding and fence, and that's why we wanted the privacy issue dealt with there. And the mansard reduced at the top floor as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. Okay, we'll move on to deputations. We've actually got 3 deputations. We'll start off with Mr. Diaper, who's objecting. You have 6 minutes, Mr. Diaper.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm speaking for my wife, Lynn Darper, who actually owns the flat at 250A Havant Road, and also for her son who occupies the flat. We strongly object to this application. I mean, essentially, it's an off-the-shelf plan that was developed really without considering the neighbours or the site setting in the local centre. It's overbearing and out of character with the immediate surroundings and doesn't comply with some aspects of planning policy, in our opinion. Our flat 250A is to the west of 252, but separated from it by this narrow passageway. The flat's in a building comprising 2 ground floor shops that face onto Havant Road and 2 first floor flats. The flats share a common entrance door on the south of the block, where there is also secondary emergency exits for the shops. The passageway is narrow, it's only 3.5 to 3.9 metres wide, and importantly, it's the sole access to the flats. It's the only way anyone can get into them, is down that passageway. The passageway also leads to some private parking at the rear of the block for the shops and flats. As such, the only access to 248A and 250A, the two flats, really should not be obstructed. And what we're wanting is some condition to ensure that it's kept clear, basically, so that we can access the flats during construction and use at 252. Now, the plans show the entrance to the HMOs through the side door into the passageway. At present, the funeral directors in number 252 access their property through the street door, from Havant Road, and only occasionally use the passageway, and that's for sort of preparing funeral corteges, etc. And that use is limited to business hours. After the development is complete, that passageway will be used, 24 hours a day by the 9 residents, their visitors, and deliveries. So I'm afraid we disagree with the para 843 of the officer's report. There will be a significant increase in noise and disturbance for the occupants of 250A, and that is going to impact their quiet enjoyment of their property. It's also likely that vehicle traffic serving number 252 will use the passageway, and they will drive on and turn round in the land to the rear of 248 and 250. The other option is that they reverse out onto the Havant Road, which is to be avoided. And you can expect that some may even park in the land at the rear of our flats. Number 252 has got no access over this land, and it's inevitable then there's going to be disputes over parking, obstructing our parking, and even more noise and disturbance to the residents of the flats. Now, moving on, the parking space proposed to the rear of the site, number 252, is shown facing across the site, i.e. east-west. Currently, people are supposed to park north-south. We ask that the proposed plans are amended to restore that space that runs north-south. Otherwise, the only access to that parking space will be across the private parking for the shops and the flats. And that will lead eventually to a net reduction in 2 parking spaces, because those 2 spaces, which are owned and by the flats, will not be available. The other option, the other item is sandwiching. The HMO developments being considered at this meeting will basically sandwich the rear part of the 248A and 250A. They have a shared door in common on the south side, and they have a small communal area on the south side. So although it's not sandwiched if you look at it from the street view, from the occupant's view, at the rear of the property, it will be sandwiched. Other thing that concerns us is the waste. The proposal was for 3 bins with no secure storage or no segregation. I mean, that's at odds with the requirements on households for the segregation of waste, and it's probably contrary to the separation of waste in England regulations to 2024. So we request that there is secure segregated storage and not just an area for the bins. Moving on to the wider issues, I mean, PCS 18, the Drayton Local Centre, is a busy, popular area. In fact, your own 2024 Town Centres assessment reported there are no vacant ground floor frontages. The proposed development, I think, is contrary to PCS 18. There's a large reduction in the Class E retail space, and it leaves a very small retail unit of 15.4 square metres of tradable area, which really is too small to be attractive to the vast majority of retailers. And that loss will reduce the attractiveness of the local centre. The local plan policy also includes that non-commercial uses of ground floor will not be supported. The current proposal is for residential use on the ground floor and fails a policy in that respect. It takes away a lot from the undertakers. The loss of a significant retail unit in a busy local centre is going to detract from the amenity of the local centres. The funeral directors who occupy 252 are clear the proposed development is incompatible with their requirements. There's the related application coming up for number 246, and that's already resulted in the bicycle retailer and repairer basically being forced to close. They close at the end of the month. And to me, it's absolutely wrong that 2 local businesses that are thriving are going to be forced to close to make way for these HMOs. It's not in the best interest of the local community, and I think it's contrary to the planning policies. So in summary, we think this application should be rejected. It harms the shopping in the local area with the loss of valuable retail premises. It has negative impacts on the neighbours, including loss of privacy, noise and disturbance. And the poor arrangements for access could result in frequent trespass, with loss of amenity to neighbours and potential for disputes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Leifberg, for your deputation. Okay, so now we go to Carrie-Anne again, the agent.
Thank you. So I'm here to represent the application for a change of use for 252 Havant Road. The scheme has been designed to be fully compliant with planning policy, building control and HMO licensing. By taking this building back to brick and starting from scratch, we can ensure well-designed, spacious, energy-efficient rooms. To satisfy building control requirements, significant upgrades will be made between the residential and commercial use, ensuring the residents of both the commercial unit and the dwelling will have little to no impact on each other in terms of noise. Uses of breeze window treatments ensures privacy for tenants and also that of the neighbouring property. All 9 bedrooms are in excess of the minimum 10 square metre requirement, ranging from 10.69 up to nearly 16.6. Every room will also benefit from its own ensuite, which significantly reduces pressure on shared facilities and raises the standard of living for the residents. The required communal space is 22.5 and this property provides over that requirement at 26.7 with an additional laundry room and a separate WC on the ground floor for both the comfort of the residents and the cleaner and the maintenance team, ensuring residents have a generous usable living space in addition to their private rooms. The new layout delivers a retained retail unit at ground floor, ensuring continued local commercial presence and a separate residential entrance designed to provide a clear distinction between the commercial and residential uses. Carefully designed extensions that make the most of the building without harming its surroundings. Portsmouth continues to face a housing shortage and small HMOs are being lost to the market due to licensing changes and rising costs. This makes larger, compliant, professionally managed HMOs like this all the more necessary. At the same time, retaining the ground floor retail unit maintains commercial vibrancy on Havant Road. This is a balanced mixed-use scheme delivering both housing and employment space, which is exactly what national and local policy encourages. There is no loss of family home here, only introduction of overshop living, which only serves to increase the footfall into local businesses. I think Applecore's record speaks for itself. Our HMOs consistently finish to a higher standard than many family homes and not one has failed to achieve licensing. This is the responsible, well-regulated end of the market and members should take confidence of that. I wanted to pick up on a couple of things that the neighbours brought up and I do want to assure the neighbour that we have been given full consideration of neighbours and we've worked hard with the officer to minimise impact on the neighbouring properties. Also happy to have discussions with the builders if this application was to go ahead about considerate use of the passageway during the construction phase. Bins have been considered and appropriate bin storage have been allocated. With regards to parking, we're also happy to consider an alternate parking layout if the officer or the members today feel necessary. The proposal is fully compliant with PCS 17, PCS 20 and PCS 23 and the HMO SPD, and most importantly the officer's recommended approval. I also wanted to thank the officer for working so proactively with us to make amendments to the scheme to make this proposal acceptable. I respectfully ask members to support the recommendation and allow this high quality mixed use scheme at 252 Havant Road to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie-Anne. Now, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Chair and committee members, for the opportunity to speak. Firstly, this application undermines key policies in the Portsmouth Local Plan, particularly those aimed at maintaining vibrant retail and balanced communities. Policy PCS 18 of the Portsmouth Plan specifically designates Havant Road Drayton as a local shopping area, emphasising the protection of local shops and services to meet day-to-day community needs without relying on car travel. Crucially, residential uses are encouraged only on upper floors, not at ground level. In the planning agent's deputation, she mentioned that the site provides for above-the-shop living. It doesn't, it also provides for back-of-the-shop living. There is concerns that this will impact the viability of the local centre. The proposed partial conversion of the ground floor from Class E commercial to residential elements for the HMO directly contravenes this by eroding the commercial footprint. No evidence has been provided to demonstrate that the existing commercial space is unviable or that its loss would harm the local shopping parade's economic role, requirements implied under PCS 18 to justify any change. This could set a dangerous precedent leading to piecemeal erosion of essential local services in an area serving a vital hub for local residents. The proposal exacerbates parking and traffic pressures on Havant Road, a busy thoroughfare with limited parking capacity. The addition of the HMO could introduce multiple additional vehicles, plus visitor and delivery traffic, worsening congestion on a main thoroughfare and creating safety concerns for pedestrians and cyclists. The mansard roof extension introduces a bulky, out-of-scale addition that risks clashing with the established character of Havant Road's mixed commercial and residential streetscape. This application undermines retail vitality in a designated local shopping area and harms residential amenity. It places undue pressure on infrastructure, not commensurate to the community benefit. I urge the committee to refuse permission in order to safeguard the economic and social fabric of the local shopping area and protect residents' quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Okay, members' questions. Councillor Smythe.
Were we minded to approve this application, and I'm not making anything either way on that one at the moment, is I am concerned about the parking situation raised by the objectors, and I wondered if there would be possible to have a condition that would require that to be sorted out amicably. But I would go further. One of the things that's frankly unpleasant about this development, this site, is the acres of concrete surrounding it. And I think we should place conditions on about some landscaping required. Not only, I mean, the hedge obviously has got to be taken down. It's not going to affect the viability of the hedge, but it's going to reduce the amount of green. We have in the past required drainable parking spaces and the associated landscaping around that. I would like to see, please, to elaborate that, the site plan, which I think actually is probably insufficient to show me the potential of the site. I'd like to see a plan that shows where the cycle storage is going to be and where the parking is and where there might be some potential for some planting of some sort.
Thank you, Councillor.
And
yes.
I like parking. I like landscaping because it absorbs surface water drainage when we want to reduce that for the good of the sewage system, and secondly because it makes places much nicer and it increases biodiversity. And you say in your conditions that biodiversity conditions don't apply here. I think that's just because there's none already doesn't mean to say it's not important. So the question is, is there anywhere we could soften the landscape and make it easier to manage and appreciate for residents of both sides of the alleyway?
Thank you, Councillor. I highly endorse your encouragement of proper drainage and biodiversity. I think in this site it's difficult to achieve. You've got an existing site which has the shared access way and then opens up into a small area of hard standing of some sort. I'm not sure where you could accommodate much more planting than the retained hedge, which you can see on the diagram. To answer your question, the top left-hand corner is the bike store. So to get access to the bike store and the car circulation and pedestrian circulation, I can't really see much space for any meaningful landscaping. Normally, I would always want to achieve that where possible. In terms of drainage, again, it's such a small matter. I mean, conceivably, you could impose a condition to seek a betterment on this very small site to improve or reduce local runoff in the event of heavy rain. That hadn't occurred to officers given the small scale of the site, but if you wish to impose that, I think that wouldn't be opposed by officers. While looking at that rear area, Mr. Diaper talked about the orientation of the parking and the obstruction concern. He mentioned that the orientation shown there is east-west, whereas currently he said it is north-south. I don't think it, well, they have shown how that could be managed. Were it to be north-south, that perhaps blocks off a bit more in terms of cycle and bin store access. So it's a small area that needs to be used most efficiently. What I understand is that the site is existing, with existing access arrangements. We're not really clear that this development is going to change that. It's a small rear area that has access requirements existing for a first floor flat and or the funeral commercial use, and that will be what it remained for an upstairs residential use and a smaller ground floor commercial use. So we don't believe it's reasonable to impose a condition about obstruction. That's a private civil matter. We don't see why that would change, really. The site is already in use for mixed commercial and residential, and it would remain so, albeit slightly altered in the nature of the use.
Thank you. The photographs make it look like a much greater, larger area. And I thank you for your explanation about that. How would the north-south parking work in that circumstance when it was shared between the two sides of the... I mean, the red line goes down the middle of a continuous area, of which the parking for 200 and the property on the right of this diagram is on the right-hand side. Where would the two cars go, the two spaces that are attached to the proposed development go? Because you're only showing one car there. I just don't understand it at the moment.
Yeah.
And clearly, you need to use, both sides of that alleyway need to use the access commonly, but also in a shared way as exists at the moment, but also they need to share the ability to turn at the top. Could you explain a little bit more what the member of the public was saying about that?
Yes.
Because I don't understand how it works.
Of course. I must add, of course, there is a ground floor extension, so the amount of current space would be reduced with the proposal because of that ground floor extension. I think it obviously depends on, it's an informal car parking arrangement currently, so it's up to the current users of that area how they park there, how big their cars are, how good they are at parking, whether or not they want to have any at all, whether or not they've got bins or bike storage there. And also, we did talk to the applicant about what access rights there were, which we understood about the shared access way and so on. You may need to manoeuvre, which I think Mr. Diaper mentioned, use a bit of the neighbouring land to manoeuvre to get on and off. But then, that's momentarily for a second or two until you reverse in or whatever it may be. So I think the applicant has shown the most workable arrangement for the proposal, given the extension, to enable access to the bins and bikes as well as one parking space. But that would clearly need you to use the neighbouring land just to manoeuvre on and off momentarily before entering or exiting the parking space.
I thought, and I'll look it up again, that it was mentioned that there are two parking spaces with this application.
No, just the one. I think perhaps the two is reference to the current site.
Okay. Would that parking space at the back be usable if anybody decided to put a fence down the red line, or are there anything that we need to consider about that?
That would then be problematic, wouldn't it? I think even if it was orientated north-south, I'm not sure how wide. I believe that there are access rights for the shared access and shared manoeuvring, so that both parties can get on and off their parking. So the bit in front of the bins there is the sort of area on both sides of the red line that both occupiers of both sides need for that little bit of extra manoeuvring space.
Correct in assuming that if it was only one space, it could be a north-south, but there would have to be negotiation about it anyway, because presumably the people in the next door property would need to manoeuvre as well. I just wondered if there's any conditioning that we could put on that would make that a bit easier for people to resolve.
I don't think there is, to be honest, because it needs ordinary give and take as per the existing position. more so with this because of the loss of one parking space because of the extension. But even there, where you can see the rear extension next to the stair, to get into that, you would have needed manoeuvring involving space immediately next door. So I don't think in the round much has changed. There needs to be normal neighbourly use of their own access rights and a bit of each other's land in order that they can both sides of the red line get on and off satisfactorily.
Any other questions? Councillor North.
Just got one question about, obviously, the funeral directors below. What's the impact do you reckon is going to have on the actual funeral directors, having obviously the usage of the side alleyway and that? And also, what's stopping the applicant coming back later if the funeral directors does end up closing, turning into that shop front into another room for the HMO?
Thank you, Councillor North. That leads us on to some of the questions about the retail side of things and the retail viability of this local centre that both deputies have mentioned. As with any commercial premises, they're not forced out by a planning application. If the funeral directors own the premises, it's their choice as to whether or not they vacate it, sell it, whatever. If they are leasing the premises, it's the terms of their lease and the landlord, whether or not they want to continue with it, or whether the landlord doesn't want them to continue it where they've got. So that's a private commercial matter that the planning application doesn't force anyone out. It simply enables another use to come into play should the contract's landowner lessee wish it to or reach that position. In terms of the local centre, we have been candid about the local policy position. While in the local plan, the adopted local plan, PCS 18, says residential uses are encouraged on upper floors but not at ground floor. The emerging policy, PLP 28, doesn't say that. We've dropped that requirement, and it makes sense to my mind and to officers' mind clearly to retain, so there's no breach of policy with the emerging local plan, because some commercial space, albeit reduced, will be retained at the front. And there's a debate to be had about what the local market conditions and demand are for different sizes of commercial space. And I think one of the deputies said there were little vacancy or no vacancy in that centre, and it does indeed appear to be a healthy centre, which is great. Here we've got a balanced mixed-use proposal. There would be a smaller commercial space proposed, which some could review as slightly negative, but if that's your view, that has to be balanced against the positive aspects of the development of new and improved and expanded residential accommodation. And the balance officers feel is with a recommendation to approve. It's not contrary to, there was mentioned by Councillor Garden about lack of marketing evidence and the new PLP 28 policy, the emerging policy. That's only for the loss, the entire loss of a commercial facility. This is the reduction in size, significant reduction in size. So I don't believe it's contrary to that element of the policy. On to the second half of your question, Councillor North. The loss of the smaller retail commercial units at the front, could that be lost to another room? That would require another planning application, so that would be up, which would, on the face of it, appear to face some difficulty with a local policy and with respect to whether or not it's suitable from the point of the HMO. So that would be down the line.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Mason.
Two questions. The first one, following up from the deputations, are there other examples which you can quote of areas as small as this being viable commercial, being in viable commercial use in this area? Because quite clearly it would be very sad were we to lose that commercial use. And second, my second question is slightly different, but also concerns the same place. Would it be can you see any way in which it would be possible to use that commercial space as a residential use, given the configuration which is on the submitted floor plans, since it would appear to require access through a bedroom?
Thank you, Councillor. So your first question about the viability of that commercial unit on the front. If we could go to the floor plans, please, Jane. As a layman, I've noticed in lots of our local centres quite a lot of small units, general stores, this sort of thing appearing. I don't know if they're not using as much of the ground floor as whatever the unit was there before, but there are quite a lot of quite small units which do appear to be taken up. So there does appear to be some sort of market demand for relatively small units. Professionally, we do get planning applications for this sort of thing with ground floor residential flats, or HMOs even, appearing towards the rear and reducing this. So there does seem to be some sort of a move towards this smaller accommodation. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but it does seem to be, it would indicate that there's some sort of continued market demand for smaller premises. In terms of whether that could be converted into a future use, as Councillor North asked about, you'd have to, I think it's possible, for example, if you got rid of the ensuite to bedroom 1 and pushed it into bedroom 1, it might still be big enough, and then got a corridor into the commercial use. But I wouldn't like to hypothesise about that too much. It would require a future application, and that would be under the control of the planning authority.
Councillor Atwell.
Just from a peace of mind, can we look at the image, the proposed image, from the perspective of the neighbours behind the site? Okay, thank you.
You just wanted to see it? Yeah, just wanted to see it. Are there any further questions? Okay, comments or proposals? Councillor Atwell.
I would like to move a motion to refuse for the following reasons. I think PCS 18, which is our current policy, is challenged by this application, as there will be development on the ground floor. I think it's an overdevelopment, 9 units on the site. If the ground floor was still retained as a commercial unit, there's still opportunities for maybe 6, 7 units on the footprint. And we just heard, and whilst we can't think about what happened in the future, you know, there could be 10 units on here. So 9 feels like an overdevelopment. I think there's loss of amenity. I think the highways, people say that in the report, that there will be increased traffic driving around. The roads looking for parking. That I will put forward parking as a reason, as the application doesn't meet our standard. And I've just had a look at the photograph again, or the image again. And I think scale as well. I think if you're a resident behind, that the proposed development looks to me much bigger if you're sitting in your garden compared to the properties adjacent. So they are my reasons. We'll see if anybody agrees.
Thank you very much, Councillor Atwell. Is there any other comments or seconding of that proposal? Councillor North.
I'd like to second Councillor Atwell's proposal. I agree with the parking issue yet again. Our standard states, it even says here, we require 2 parking spaces, they're only giving us 1. I know it says in 8.46 at the end, it is not considered that this is an objection on either highway safety grounds or car parking standards, could not be sustained on appeal yet again. But we are losing another parking space. So I actually agree with that. I definitely will not be voting this, sorry.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I think I'd like to add support in a way to the comments that have been made. My comment was also about the mansard roof. Now, I know the argument will be that if you look along the road, there's all sorts of shapes and sizes and everything, but it feels like really like a bulky overdevelopment compared with the other side of the building. And I kind of, everything about this feels like overdevelopment. It's like, feels definitely cram the rooms in. I actually take on board the comments around the commercial area. I actually think that sometimes having HMOs in a commercial area can actually increase footfall. So I think I feel less strength around that, although it is interesting that it is a well-occupied local area. But as well as the comments made about the loss of amenity, I'm also worried about the at the moment there is one flat. There could potentially be 9 people. You've got parking, but just footfall. I listened very keenly to the objections from the neighbours. So unusually for me, I think I'm going to be in support. Just everything about it, whilst ticking many policy documents, I actually think that this is an overdevelopment. And I would add the roof to the comments that Councillor Atwell has raised. Councillor Smythe.
I think it's quite a fine balance, this one, and I am a bit concerned about it. But at the same time, I think we do need decent HMOs, which are of good size. It's a very good location for an HMO because it's not in an area typified by lots of family housing, which I know sometimes people find even more difficult than this. I think also it's the people coming to live here would help to keep the local shopping area going, to keep pubs and other things going. It's very near QA, where there's a definite need for young professionals for housing. We do rely on good quality HMOs to house people at the beginning of the housing ladder. And this is a fine balance, this one, for me. But I would like to propose that we do agree it. It's a high standard of accommodation. I think the people involved will be able to sort out the problems that I'm glad you were able to explain a little bit more to us about that. It's got very, very good transport, this area. It's, I mean, I think, you know, in general, having HMOs in some of our shopping areas is really much, much better than having them, you know, like at the end of a cul-de-sac of a road that's evidently full of young families and so on and so forth. And actually, we need to be doing more to help people to live over the shop and help people to have accommodation where there's a lot going on and where the mixed and balanced arguments are less strong. So I would like to partly just say we have a balance here, propose that we do accept this application and approve it in accordance with the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else want to comment? Okay. You're looking at me as if you want me to... Do you want to summarise the reasons? Are you going to help us?
I think not summarise, but clarify,
Yeah,
please.
clarify.
First of all, yes, because you do have a resolution. A proposal to refuse the application. That was the first proposal, I think. So we'll take a vote on that in a moment. Thank you. Right, just to firm up what members will be voting on. Alleged non-compliance with PCS 18, that's to do with the local retail and commercial uses and not having any ground floor use in the local centre. And Councillor Atwell noted that's the current policy, the adopted policy, as opposed to the emerging policy, which does have some gaining weight, but that's that position. Yeah, okay. The reason number 2, overdevelopment has been mentioned. What's the effect of overdevelopment? Councillor Horton, I think you referred to comings and goings and loss of amenity. So if that's what was meant. Okay. So that's noise and disturbance for existing occupiers, neighbouring occupiers. Understood. Councillor Atwell referred to loss of amenity from, I think, from people having to drive around looking for parking spaces because of the loss of one space. I would just, my view on that is that in the context of a busy main road, you're not going to notice, people know there's one space there, they're not going to go and try and park there. So it's not sort of that sort of immediate noise and disturbance in that access way.
Simon, is there any way of also incorporating into that the loss of one space but the gain of potentially like a lot more? I mean, in planning terms, is that not relevant?
Well, yeah, and Councillor North, I think Councillor North was more looking at the as well as Councillor Atwell, about the standard, the amount of parking, as opposed to the effect on amenity. So yes, amount of parking, but as is usually the case when this is raised, officers come back and say, well, the MPPF policy is you've got to identify severe impact. So, what is the actual harm of that locally? If that could be identified, that would be helpful in a moment, please. Then the scale of the development and the reference to the mansard, I think, as opposed to the numbers of occupiers, Councillor Atwell, you were concerned about the scale and the appearance, the outlook from the neighbours to the south. Thank you. Okay, I think that's firmed it up a bit more.
Can we add to that about the mansard roof as well? With the bulkiness
oh yes,
of
sorry.
that?
In terms of
Yeah.
the wider
Yeah,
character.
because I think the scale that Councillor Atwell was talking about is the extension at the back plus
Yes.
the view from the back. But actually, for me, there's the addition of the view from the front in terms of the bulkiness of the mansard.
So that's a street scene.
Street scene.
Scene reason for refusal, a character.
Thank you. I'm not sure we saw the images before of just for the best decision making possible. The officer's report referred to some of the other similar sorts of examples. So the top image is on Havant Road, just slightly further to the west on the north side of the road. So there is some examples of some differences in design and scale with mansards. The bottom image, the application premises, is located towards the western end. We're just trying to illustrate that there's a varied roof line. The 2D black and white images don't do the proposal any favour. I think in 3D, with appropriate materials that are conditioned, it would assimilate better into the landscape, the local street scene, sorry. And the next image, please. So the application site is right in the middle there, just beyond just beyond the blue car there. Yeah, that's just it next door. Again, you can see the jump up with this 3-storey building here. So just to give members a context, this is why officers felt, on balance, that the mansard wasn't going to cause such an effect locally, and then again balancing that against the positive aspects of the scheme. But members will come to their own view.
I think, Chair, just to add, obviously there is then a concern that there's evidently 3-storey development in the vicinity on the other side of the road as well. So we need to be careful in alleging that the scale is unacceptable when it's clearly developments of that scale within the vicinity.
Thank you. Councillor Smythe, did you want to say something?
No, that was what I meant to mention that
All right.
before, but it's driving down the road, it's very evidentially a mixed commercial residential street, and there are things at 3 stories quite frequently.
Thank you.
So, and then number 5 would be special protection areas, lack of mitigation. So could I ask through you, Chair, just for an explanation of the harm resulting from the loss of one parking space and the introduction of the new uses? What harm would result, please?
Chris?
Well, it's the but it's the impact on amenity. I mean, I highlight the driving around element, by the way, because that's what the highways team have highlighted, and I place great weight on the fact that 9 people and 1 parking space. I think common sense tells you there'll be more than 2 cars, even in an area served well by public transport. So that will increase the driving around and the air quality and all the rest of it, and therefore the loss of parking is significant. The impact of the one space is significant in this instance.
So, highway safety.
Chair, I mean, the purpose of obviously outlining the previous meeting about the appeal decisions that we've had is so that members are clear where an inspector's likely to support them, where they're not. Within 50 metres of the site, there's a bus stop. There's 6 buses per hour into town. In the evening, there's still 4 buses an hour. It's still possible to get a bus at 3:30 in the morning because the buses run through the night from that side into the city centre. So we will have a great deal of difficulty in alleging that it's unsustainable and it doesn't offer the opportunity for someone who doesn't have a car to choose to live in that location, which is very well located, and it's still a reasonable walking distance from Cosham railway station as well. So that's our concern. We just don't have the justification on the parking reason for refusal, Chair.
Would you like to come back?
Again, broken gramophone. I think we have standards for a reason, and I think it's difficult. I'm a member of the public. I'm not a planning officer. So for me, I just think we have a standard for a reason. And then if we just ignore the standards, I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me. And I know we don't do planning by numbers. I've been around long enough to know all that. But in terms of this particular site, it feels like it's even more important to raise that.
Thank you. Advice taken. Any other comments? Thank you, Simon, for helping us translate those into more succinct planning speak. Yes.
Sorry to interject. Currently, you've obviously got the proposal to refuse by Councillor Atwell, seconded by Councillor North. You've got the proposal to approve from Councillor Smythe, but there's no seconder to that proposal. I was just going to say, before you move to voting, to see if there are any seconders. Obviously, they need to be taken in turn.
I was code for, are there any other comments? Does anyone else want to second Councillor Smythe's proposal?
I'll second Councillor Smythe's proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Okay, now we have 2 proposals in front of us. So the first one, we'll go to a vote for the first one, which is proposed by Councillor Atwell, seconded by Councillor North, for the reasons that we've just spent a long time going through. All those in favour of that refusal of officers' recommendations? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those against that proposal? 2, and abstentions 1. So that is carried and planning permission is not granted. Okay. Yeah, I was about to ask that question. It's like we've got one more, but do I'm conscious that we've been going for a while. Those 5 minutes? 5 minutes, then. Thank you. Okay. After that little comfort break, we're back for the last agenda item, which is agenda item 5. I swapped 6 and 5 because I thought Mr. Diver might want to go, but he's obviously interested. So we're doing item 5 now, which is 246 Havant Road. And I think, Simon, you're doing the presentation again. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So 246 Havant Road, I'll read the whole title. Change of use of part of the ground floor and of the upper floor from a commercial.
Oh, well spotted. Yes, we will wait for him. Sorry.
Getting a bit paranoid because
Here he
you
is.
didn't see him earlier when we.
Here he is. Oh, bless you. Sorry about that. We made a start and then realised you weren't here. Sorry. Maybe it's that eye line, that bit of the eye line. Okay, welcome back. Yes. Yeah. No, we will. We had literally got a sentence into it. So we're doing 246 Havant Road, which is agenda item 5, the last one. And Simon, can you repeat your first sentence? Thank you.
Thank you. 246 Havant Road, change of use of part of the ground floor and of the whole upper floor from commercial Class E to an 8-bedroom, 8-person house and multiple occupation to include retention of some of the ground floor commercial unit, Class E, installation of a new shop front and residential commercial access doors, construction of a mansard roof, a rear terrace at ground floor and associated bicycle and refuse storage. This application is coming because of the numbers of objections received. We have Councillor Gardner and the planning agent speaking with deputations. And the SMAT matter I'll explain once we get the right plans coming up. So here we are again in the Havant Road local shopping centre, about half a mile east of Cosham. This application site has a rear access, which is why the site to the south is red-edged. This is a post-war development fronting onto Aldsworth Close, and there is an undercroft access to the rear courtyard of that post-war development, that sort of T-shape, and clearly access rights have existed for some years for the application site to the north to gain access through that undercroft and drive straight on to their rear parking area. You'll see some photos shortly. This is the front of the premises, a bicycle shop which has the whole of the premises currently, plenty of space for them. The proposal is to have a reduced commercial area and the HMO upstairs, and again a mansard roof to be built at the front there. With respect to the mixed and balanced community, we now have, well, the last application was refused, so there are 0 out of 39 HMOs currently in the 50-metre radius. If this was approved, it would 1 out of 40. There would be an extra unit and one of those would be an HMO, which would be 2.5%. So it would comply with your policy for a mixed and balanced community. With respect to the internal living arrangements, there is the current premises, which, as I said, is both stories are giving over to commercial use, and there's a front door and side windows. If we move on to the next image, there is the proposed mansard roof, top left. On that same shop frontage, that's a new shop, and then the door to the HMO will be on the left-hand side there, inserted onto the front elevation as well. Thank you. To the rear, thank you. Bottom right image shows the mansard roof. This premises, different to the last one, doesn't run as deep south into the site, just to make you aware, which is why officers didn't ask for the same cutback of the mansard roof as we did with the previous application. And there's no ground floor extension. Going along to the SMAT, staying on this image, because of the introduction of first floor residential use where there is none currently, and the kitchen window in the flat opposite. In the middle of the first floor elevation there, you can see two windows. It's the same brise soleil effect proposed with the last application, because those two windows would have a change from commercial use with little outlook or outlooking to a bedroom use. So that is why we're proposing that slatted approach to deal with the intervisibility, but still gain some light and angled outlook for the occupier of the bedroom. In the Supplementary Matters report, the SMAT, the window above, with hindsight, we should have also done a similar treatment, because that is introducing clearly a new window, residential window, looking down into the kitchen opposite on the other side of the light well. So by way of amended or extra condition, the window above those two it would be frosted and with the appropriate means of opening the window to avoid opening it anyway and being able to see into the neighbours. So we are dealing with that relationship that way. Thank you. On to the floor plans. So in the bottom left image on the ground floor, you can see a retained commercial unit, a bit bigger, I think, than the previous application, with the toilet and store. And on the left-hand side, a new access taking you into the HMO. So moving through into the HMO, a dining communal area in the middle of the property at 25.3 square metres, which is above the 22.5 minimum size expectation. And then to the rear, bedroom 1 with an ensuite, and that happens to have a small decked terrace area there for a bit of amenity space for that occupier. Bins to the left-hand side of the communal area on a raised terrace, which does raise that relative to the property to the east, which must be 248, but there's no harmful impact on that neighbour's amenity because of a lack of windows next door at that point. Moving upstairs, we have 4 more ensuite bedrooms, and into the roof space, the mansard, another 3. All these rooms are a very good size, ranging from 12.5 all the way up to 29.9. Bedroom 8, you can see, particularly large. So on size standards and with respect to configuration, orientation, light and outlook, we're happy that the future occupiers would have a good standard of accommodation. I don't think we mentioned in the report, to be fair, there's also a WC, a communal WC of the communal room at the ground floor, and the laundry room as well as the communal space. There we are. So that is flipped round again. So that's orientated to the north. So Havant Road is along the north image. So the car there drives directly over that red line that doesn't exist on the ground, and under the undercroft. We'll see some more images of that. And then you've got a bike store next to it on the bottom left. Thank you. Okay, this is the application property on the left-hand side. Outside that back door is where the new raised platform with bins would be. That is next door to just a side area, so there's no difficulty in officer's opinion with that, with respect to the neighbour. To the south, on the right-hand side, top, we've got Allsworth Close. So that's the access way, sort of in the shadows there, under the undercroft. You drive straight across that car park, and in the bottom image, straight into the... It looks rather hedged there, but there is actually a gap. We see it better in the next image, next to that other car. There we are, and bottom right there, that is the gap. So you drive from the right, past that car, straight onto the rear courtyard, let's call it, of the application site. So no change to the existing in terms of arrangements or space and size. Top left is the view from the next door flat, looking at the application site. So the left-hand window would be a bedroom window. That's one of the ones that would have the brise soleil just to direct the view away from that flat window. The right-hand side is a ensuite shower, so that window would be frosted. And there's the undercroft you can see there. I think that, and there's just some more general images to give you some general relationships, and then I think we do go on to look again at the wider context at some point. There we are, images you saw from the last presentation showing the mix of roofscape and scale in the area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Simon. So then deputation, so we'll go to Carrie-Anne.
Thank you. 246 Havant Road. This scheme has been designed to be fully compliant with planning policy, building control and HMO licensing. Again, we're taking this building back to brick and starting from scratch so we can ensure well-designed, spacious, energy-efficient rooms. To satisfy building control requirements, significant upgrades are going to be made again between the residential and commercial uses, ensuring the residents of both the commercial unit and the dwelling have little to no impact on each other. As you'll see, this property is much more spacious than the previous scheme, provides a larger commercial area plus larger bedrooms. All 8 bedrooms are well in excess of the minimum 10 square metre requirement, ranging from 12.5 to nearly 30 square metres. Every room will benefit from its own ensuite. The required communal space for 8 occupiers is 22.5, and this property provides 25, along with the large bedrooms, and a separate WC on the ground floor for both the comfort of the residents and the cleaner. There is also a separate laundry room. This is not about squeezing people into a tired old building, it's about upgrading the property to deliver high quality housing while retaining commercial activity on the ground floor. The mansard roof extension adds space in a way that is keeping with the character of the street and the mixed roof styles, as you've already been shown. The officer's report confirms that design, including the mansard, will not cause unacceptable overlooking or overshadowing. Secure cycle storage and properly designed refuse storage are included from the outset and are easily accessible at the rear. The new shopfront ensures the ground floor continues to serve a commercial purpose with clear separate access for business and residents. I know objections have been raised, but they're the same themes we've seen time and time again. Parking. The idea that every occupier brings a car is simply unrealistic. Many HMO tenants are students, young professionals or key workers who do not drive. Cycle storage has been provided to support sustainable travel, and this is easily accessible at the rear of the property, along with retaining the existing parking space. Reducing the size of the retail will likely decrease the parking associated also with the existing use. The property is in a sustainable location and is situated on a main bus route. As members, you have been advised many times that parking is not a defendable reason at appeals, and this has been lost at appeal within the last couple of years, and then 5 more appeals have been recently submitted to the Inspectorate. As a council taxpayer in Portsmouth myself, I object to blatant misuse of taxpayers' money that some members in this committee I feel are guilty of. Loss of family housing. This is not a simple family home conversion. It's a mixed-use building with retained commercial activity. It's entirely appropriate to bring the upper floors into residential use, especially when the accommodation being provided is of such high quality. Maximising the residential uppers in this property will add value to the immediate area and bring in people who will likely spend money in the cafes, restaurants and shops along Havant Road. I feel we also need to challenge the prejudgment of future occupiers. These homes are let to respectable, hard-working people who want decent accommodation. Assuming otherwise is not a material planning matter. One of the recurring themes and objections is not about the design, space standards or compliance of the scheme, but about the people who live in the property. I want to be absolutely clear, the planning system is there to consider the use of the land and buildings, not to second-guess the personal circumstances of future tenants. Time and time again, we see comments that imply HMO residents will inevitably cause parking problems, antisocial behaviour or strain the local services, but there's no evidence for that here. In fact, the opposite is true. The occupiers of our APGOR-designed HMOs, which we manage, are typically young professionals, key workers or students, and people who need decent, affordable accommodation close to where they work or study. All properties are professionally managed, and any issues, if they arise, are dealt with promptly. These are not the unmanaged, overcrowded HMO models of the past, and prejudging people before they even arrive in the neighbourhood is not only unfair, it's not a material planning consideration. Portsmouth still faces a housing shortage, particularly for single people and sharers. This is demonstrated at the ease in which these properties are let. Smaller HMOs are becoming less viable, and that makes larger, fully compliant, well-managed HMOs like this essential. HMOs are part of the housing mix the city's needs. The last census shows a significant proportion of our population in shared living. Refusing well-designed policy-compliant HMOs like this one will not make that disappear. It will only push people into poorly converted, unregulated alternatives. I think as councillors you'll all be aware of the number of people on housing waiting lists and the sheer amount of people that have been rehomed in HMO accommodation over the last year. People that rent our properties openly share with us that HMO living is the perfect type of accommodation for where they are at this point in their lives to enable them to move forward. The application is fully compliant with PCS 17, PCS 20, PCS 23 and the HMO SPD, and most importantly, the officer's recommended approval. I respectfully ask members to support that recommendation and approve this high-quality mixed-use scheme. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your deputation. And Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Chair. Much of the deputation submitted for the previous application applies here, and you'll be pleased to hear I won't read that again, so you'll be saved from my dulcet tones. Save to add for 246, I note that ensuite bathroom 6 fails to meet the space standard. I note the planning officer's comments in the report that this is marginal, and perhaps echoing Councillor Atwell's comments about what's the point of having standards if they're not going to be applied sensibly. Likewise, I'd have concerns about setting dangerous precedents for future HMOs and usability for residents and hygiene within dense housing. The space standard is there for a reason. Residents have also raised a number of concerns with me about the terrace area and would invite the committee to have a look at that in terms of its use by large numbers of people and potential problems that may cause. I'm grateful, thank you.
Thank you very much. Simon, did you deal with the SMAT issue? With I think you mentioned it about the windows, didn't
Yes,
you?
thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much.
We did send updated plans to the officer this morning with a larger ensuite, so that has been dealt with. I don't know.
Okay, that's a useful piece of information. Thank you. Members, questions? Councillor Mason.
Given the fact that my eyesight is gradually going, what is the size of the commercial property? The commercial element of this property.
Thank you, Councillor. Presently, 98 square metres at ground floor, 92 at first. Yeah. The proposal is 22 square metres. I should correct myself earlier on. I thought it was slightly bigger than the previous application. The previous one was 22 as well.
Right.
Any other questions? Can you... Oh, sorry, Councillor Mason.
It's a question about bedroom 4 on the first floor, where they have these brise-soleil windows. It strikes me that the windows look relatively small anyway. They don't have much of an outlook. Can you assure me that there will be adequate light for living in this room with those 2 small brise-soleil windows?
Thank you, Councillor. So if we could just identify the 2 windows, please. There we are, the 2 of them. You're right. We saw them on the elevations and the photographs. They're relatively narrow, but maybe that's because they're quite tall as well. So proportionally they look narrow, but and there are 2 of them. So I think in terms of overall window space, it's quite a reasonable sized amount of glass pane to receive light. And then the brise-soleils funnel the view away from the kitchen window opposite south, 45 degrees south. So the windows face east, but sun comes from the southeast across, obviously, to the southwest. So to answer your question, I do feel, given their size and orientation, there would still be a reasonable amount of light coming into that bedroom.
And the bin store is accessed only through the property itself. Is that correct? That you could not take the bin store out for the bins out for collection by any other means?
Well, you'd have to haul them down the steps and then through the back, through the undercroft. And I don't suppose anyone wants to do that. So level access is through the front hallway there onto the street for normal collection.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I jump in with a question? I'm trying to work out from the plan, bedroom 1. So I can see some double doors going out onto some decking. That's nice. And the ensuite. I suppose what I'm trying to say is that person right next to that communal area, and is it the only way that they can get to their bedroom is walking through the communal area?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, thank you.
Councillor
That's their
Smythe.
fire escape, yes, thank you. Yeah, we do see these scenarios from time to time with a bedroom at the end of the property as opposed to the communal area. And I think because of fire regulations, building regulations, you can see a double door between the kitchen and that room. It's also got the fire escape, the little stairs in the top left there. I think, Councillor Gardner, you referred to concern from residents about the terrace. I think it was that one you probably referred to in terms of its use. So it's a personal terrace for the occupier of that bedroom, if approved, rather than coming off the communal area. Of course, that person could say to their 2 or 3 friends or whatever, would you like to come and stand here and enjoy a bit of daylight? But it's mostly obviously for one person's use as opposed to a wider communal use, I would say. Could I just come back to the last point about the space standards? I think I missed it from Councillor Gardner, but if he was referring to the ensuite, I missed that.
Yeah,
I think Ms Wells has commented that there's an amended plan which just adjusts the size.
That's right, thank you. I just wanted to be clear what you were talking about. I missed that. I apologise. Thank you, Carrie-Anne, for clarifying that. Yes, it was such a small discrepancy of 0.06 square metres that we didn't bother to amend it, and the bedroom is more than big enough. We dealt with that in the report, but we're perfectly happy to have an amended plan to adjust that wall one tiny bit.
Thank you. Any other questions? Still on questions, members. Councillor Smythe.
I wanted to follow up on Councillor Mason's concern about these narrow windows in bedroom 4. You say they'll be quite tall. How tall? And, you know, could they be made any taller if they needed to be? And the second question is, I presume the frosted glass is on the side of the shower of bedroom 4. Is that correct?
Thank you. Hopefully the case officer's listing will be able to put a dimension on those 2 windows, which you can see they're the 2 ones sort of shaded in the middle with the brise-soleils. Imagine those 2 put together.
Yes.
You'd say that's a big window, wouldn't you? As I said, it looks narrow because they're quite tall and they're separated, but I think if put together, you would say that was a large window going to receive a decent amount of light into it. I'm sorry, the second half of your question, Councillor.
The second half of the question is that where the frosted glass is?
Oh, yes.
In the shower room of that bedroom 4?
The shower room is in the shadow there. David will just put his arrow over it. That's the shower room, which would be the ensuite, which would no doubt be frosted.
No, thank you for that reassurance, because I don't like the idea of somebody having to live in a bedroom with frosted glass, and I wasn't quite clear. No, I think now when you see those together, it does look like a decent... because I'm very keen on good light in these places. They're people's sole living space, of course. Thank you.
Councillor Dent.
A couple of questions. One off-street parking, and it's supposed to be 2. Can we just clarify that for people that are watching online that this is the case?
Yes, for an HMO of this size, or indeed a house this size, the expected in the round parking requirements or standard is 2 spaces, but just to remind everyone listening and members, that depends on the merits of each and every application and indeed its location. This is in a local centre, a local shopping centre, excellent public transport, Cosham train station, not so far away, and the buses. So we'd ask you to take that into consideration.
Thank you. Yes and no would have been fine, but that would do. Water efficiency. They're saying that they are going to limit the use to 110 litres per person, which is roughly about 40 or 50% more than it would be in a normal
Well, those are building regulation standards, but we do still attach them because of making it clear we're complying with the nitrates matter and special protection area, and that is a normal standard. It's quite low. The applicant puts in, once they're installing the baths, the showers, the washing machine, everything involving water in the building, they have a calculator that provides, so they know what devices have gone in, the shower heads, the amount of flow, etc., and they're able to provide accurate calculations at the time of installation to prove it complies.
That's fine if you only use the shower once or you only use the toilet once, but the thing is these things are used on a multiple occasion, and it's a question that I've been asked on many occasions, is how they can actually say it's limited to 110 litres when we are struggling with our water supplies at the best of times. And yes, I've been in the industry for a long time. I know that basically I can tell you exactly what a toilet will use. I can tell you exactly what a shower uses, what a washing machine, every appliance, what they will use. But you can't guarantee that it's going to be 110 litres per person.
I'm guessing there's a planning response to that versus...
Well, I mean, clearly if you have 6 showers a day, you're going to go beyond that. But in terms of a normal shower length, I believe that because it regulates the flow of water more carefully than one that isn't energy efficient or water efficient, if you have a regular 1 or 2 showers a day, you're going to personally, per person, so it's more the numbers of people, I think, that affects the total amount of water as opposed to per person.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, members' comments or proposals? Any comments? Councillor Mason, and then I'll come to Councillor Atwell. I think that movement was you want to speak. Councillor Mason first.
I was rather worried about the 252 and had misgivings about part of it, although I actually supported the proposal. Here I have fewer misgivings. I think this is a good design. I think this, because of the depth of the commercial premises and their configuration, they should work better. All in all, I think this is an adequate use of space. I take the points that Councillor Dent has made about worries about water, but presumably the whole water of the whole premises would be metered, and so we could this could be checked and looked at if need be. So I propose the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Did you have your hand up? Yes, Councillor Atwell.
May not surprise you to hear that I'm going to move a motion to refuse. It's a slightly better application than the previous one. However, again, I think I'm being consistent in my approach here, that space standards are not reached, and for in the bathroom.
I think that was clarified that had been changed.
Oh, has it?
Yeah,
Sorry,
so
I
it
was
has. Yeah, that
clearly
was the question.
Not paying attention at that moment.
Yeah, so that
Okay,
one's...
that falls.
That is full. That falls.
Loss of amenity. I mean, this is similar to the previous application in that there will be increased traffic driving around looking for parking. Look, I'm going to get the same response about raising the parking standards not being reached. Thirdly, PCS 18, loss of commercial space similar to the previous application. And also for me, design, I think I want better for people living in Portsmouth than to have to walk through that type of communal space that could be occupied by up to 7 people to get to their bedrooms. And I think there are other ways of designing that space, so that's not necessary. So I think that's where I'm at. I don't know if I'll get any support for it.
Thank you for that. Councillor Smythe.
wanted to second the recommendation to approve the application made by Councillor Mason. I mean, I think this is good accommodation. I do think it's important to move people back into high streets in order to help to support those high streets, and also to build to sometimes to a more modern standard than the houses that we often receive applications on. And you know, with regard to the walking through the kitchen, almost every HMO in Southsea involves walking through the kitchen by more than one person who's going through to a bedroom at the back. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's absolutely standard, and it's not forbidden by our regulations. So I would like to second this application for much needed high quality accommodation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Dent.
I'd like to second Councillor Chris Atwell's motion. Sorry, I'm miles away.
I got the gist. You're seconding that. So okay. So well, we've got a proposal before us, proposed by Councillor Mason and seconded by Councillor Smythe, to move officer's recommendation for approval of planning permission. All those in favour? 3. All those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to abstain on this one. So, that proposal falls. So we have a second proposal. Do we need it? Oh, no, it falls. Yes, of course. I did this last time. Yeah. Yeah, so planning, yeah, by default, planning permission is...
No, Chair. No, you've got to have a vote on whether you refuse the application. No, so you've had a vote to...
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so you need to... And before we get there, we need to clarify the reasons for refusal, please.
Okay. So that's the clarity of the first proposal. I was going with my advice. So now we need to clarify what the reasons are before we move to a vote on the second proposal, which what I've got down is the similar ones to the last one on the loss of amenity around traffic, parking standards not being met, PC 18 with the development of the ground floor contravening current policy, and I believe something around design, having that many people having that shared space and someone's bedroom being next to that. Have I summarised it well, Councillor Atwell?
And a fourth one would be the special protection areas mitigation.
Okay. I think that's all of them. Yes, so given those reasons, it looks like David wants to jump in.
No, I'm really not clear on the reasons for refusal, Chair, apologies. So initially I had a reference to internal standards, and then I thought that was dropped. Is that still a...
the space standards one was, yeah, it was highlighted
so
to Councillor.
So what's the harm, please?
What's the harm?
Yeah, what's the harm? So our advice is that it complies with your SPD. So where's the harm, please, Chair?
Sorry, the harm of what?
Internal space standards. We can't refuse the application.
No, I think we dropped the internal space standards.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Sorry,
dropped.
I'm really confused because I just
No,
pressed
that's
you
fine.
on
I
that
think
and
the
you said
ones
it was a reason.
the ones that I had space standards, but I dropped it once that clarification was made.
But does that come from the move?
So I think the amenity comment was around the parking again, if I'm not mistaken.
So whose amenity is affected by parking, Chair, please?
This is the increased traffic in the area, people driving around trying to find somewhere to park.
So, Chair, where's our evidence that there's increased traffic from the use, bearing in mind the scaling down of the existing commercial use weighed against the proposed residential use in a very sustainable area?
From the report and the highway comments, that it's entirely possible, probable, that there'll be a loss of amenity. I have given weight to that comment and think it's enough to move it as a reason for refusal.
So, Chair, that's just not evidence of anything at all. I mean, it's a speculative suggestion. We need reasons, we need evidence. Where is our evidence that, as a result of the scaling down of the commercial use on the site and its replacement with the proposed residential use, that leads, A, to an increase in traffic, and B, that increase in traffic harms nearby residential properties. Without any evidence, we just lose the case and we lose costs.
Chris, can I just quickly jump in on this one? It doesn't meet our parking standards.
Hang on.
No,
Can we
so
just flash this
I just
out?
wanted to,
The wording.
But in terms of loss of amenity, isn't the threshold balance of probabilities? So on balance of probabilities, I think that there will be an increased number of vehicles driving around trying to find parking. And that seems to be reflected in some of the comments that I've read. And I've attached enough weight for it to that for it to be a reason to refuse.
So the wording from the highways team says, therefore, there's a potential for increased instances of residents driving around the area, hunting for a parking space. This is a matter of residential amenity, not highway safety. I think that's what you're referring to, that bit, which was also used in the previous application. I'm going to come to Councillor Dent first. Did you want to make a comment? Sorry, because I cut you off. Councillor Smythe.
I want to remind councillors that we're in a climate emergency and we are aiming, in the interest of amenity for everybody living here and the future of our planet, for a lower car usage city. And we have already heard from the applicant that in her experience, which is greater than ours, a lot of people who live in HMOs do not have cars. And certainly the young people I know, when they go and live in all sorts of cities around the country, and indeed our city, they don't have cars. They're expensive things. They're not what you would use. You choose to live somewhere where there's sustainable traffic and transport. And I think where there is no evidence, we perhaps need to get some more evidence of how people living in HMOs actually behave regarding their cars. But we've also heard that we're almost certain to lose an appeal. This is valuable housing. We should put people before cars, in my view.
I appreciate your comment.
And I'm quite passionate about that.
I can understand. We're just looking for the wording. So the other comments that were made about the parking policy, have we got the wording on that? That's what we used in the last one.
We have two, it's the loss of amenity aborted and highway safety.
Yeah. And the PCS 18. The ensuite bathroom one we were leaving out. Have we captured everything? They are the reasons.
And the third reason was the walking through the communal space to get to the seventh bedroom, so that one occupier having less of a standard of amenity.
Yeah.
Chair, before it goes to the vote, can I just say that it doesn't undermine members' position in a reason for refusal to take a sensible, balanced judgment on the parking issue. If there's other material reasons to refuse an application, there's other material reasons we can defend those. Don't throw in reasons that we can't defend and we will lose costs and be awarded. Even if the appeal is dismissed, we can lose costs for pursuing an unreasonable refusal, which we don't have evidence for. It doesn't undermine your position in refusing application, just gives you some clarity over things that we can at least put forward some form of case rather than the indefensible.
Okay.
It's still possible to remove that as a reason for refusal, and that is our recommendation that you do so, Chair.
Councillor Atwell. You're comfortable with leaving it in? Okay.
Chair, just in terms of legal advice, obviously I can only reiterate what you've heard. It's going to come as no surprise. Clearly, if this matter is appealed, the likelihood is it will be a successful appeal and the authority will be facing costs. I just need to warn you about that before you make this decision.
You want to leave it in? Councillor Dent, you were seconding it. You're happy to leave it in. So, officers' advice duly heard. Okay, so now can we go to a vote on this? So the proposal is to refuse officer's recommendation based on the items that we've just discussed, the reasons we've just discussed. All those in favour of refusing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 supporting that. All those against? 2. And abstentions? 2. Therefore, that proposal is carried and officers' recommendations for planning permission for that premises are refused. So, I think that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time and your comments, and particularly thanks to the gentleman who's spent the whole of his day at the planning meeting. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.